Part 50. Qin Ye's little ancestor is a real boss. Author, Junanan. Chapter 491. Nan Yan and Qin Lu directly found out most of the secrets of the Sheng family in a short period of time. Except for the core secrets placed in dangerous files, they have not yet peaked. The defense of core secrets is stronger. Even if someone tries to crack it, the core secrets will self-destruct immediately to prevent them from being stolen by outsiders. But in doing so, they will also be exposed. What's more, they haven't taken a closer look at the other information on the Sheng family, and it will take some time to read through those things. So for the time being, they are not in a hurry to check those. In the evening, Sheng Jingke came to Tingyuj again and invited them to the restaurant for dinner. Nowadays, their group is semi-controlled. In order to avoid unnecessary conflicts, they try not to have conflicts. The Sheng family usually eats together. The core members have a total of 70 or 80 people. The largest dining table is divided into 4 tables, so the restaurant alone covers an area of more than 400 square meters. Mr. Sheng was weak and did not eat in the restaurant. The food was sent to his bedroom. In addition, everyone in the Sheng family who is in the town is here today. Nan Yan also took this opportunity to recognize these people. They probably looked down on outsiders deep down. Although the Sheng family entertained Nan Yan and his group as distinguished guests, the 6 masters and apprentices sat alone together in the seating arrangement. In the eyes of the Sheng family, they were not qualified to eat at the same table as them. Being able to eat in the same restaurant is enough to look up to them. Of course, Nan Yan and the others didn't want to eat at the same table as the Sheng family. It's not bad to separate like this. During the meal, Nan Yan clearly felt a few eyes sweeping over them from time to time. In particular, one of them was full of hostility. While they were eating, Shen Yuanhang suddenly came towards them with a glass of wine. Shen Yuanhang stood in front of them with a pine-like figure, tall and aura, wearing gold-rimmed glasses, with an apology on his face, and said in a gentle and polite voice, "Chen Si is my subordinate. It was my lack of discipline that allowed him to act boldly and without permission, intending to harm Dr. Hua's several apprentices. Although his unauthorized actions have nothing to do with me, he is my person after all. This glass of wine, just think of it as my apology to you." Shen Yuanhang felt quite aggrieved. They killed his people, and he wanted to apologize to them. His anger surged, but he could only suppress it hard. The hostility towards Nan Yan and his group became more and more serious. For such a few people, it would be more harm than good to affect his status in Grandpa's heart. Now Grandpa still relies on Hua Shifang for treatment, so it is time for him to respond to all requests. After Grandpa recovers, he will settle accounts with them. Shen Yuanhang came over in person. Although he didn't know his identity, Hua Shifang could guess that he was close to him based on his demeanor and temperament. Originally, the meal was pretty good, but when he was almost finished, someone came to make trouble, which affected his appetite. But there was no way, everyone came over. Hua Shifang could only put down the chopsticks in his hand, and said calmly, "I have taught him a lesson, let's forget about this hatred. You have already said that this has nothing to do with you, it is the evil servant who acted without permission. And it's not your fault. Dr. Hua is really a great person." Shen Yuanhang showed a smile on his face, and then said with a somewhat sincere tone, "If Dr. Hua needs anything in the Sheng family, you can go to Qingfeng Ziazu to find me." Hua Shifang responded with an indifferent expression and did not touch his face. People under the eaves have to bow their heads. Even if he is the Chinese miracle doctor, in the extremely dangerous place of the Sheng family, he can only suppress his temper temporarily. Shen Yuanhang toasted with a glass of wine, turned and left. But since he took the initiative, other Sheng family members also came over to offer Shifang wine. After all, in their eyes, after Hua Shifang cured Mr. Sheng, he would definitely receive good treatment in the Sheng family in the future. In addition, no one can guarantee that he will not get sick or suffer disaster in the future. If he can establish a good relationship with the miracle doctor, then it will be an extra layer of protection. I didn't see someone as scheming as Lian Shen Yuan Hang coming to get close to divine Dr. Hua. They certainly couldn't lag behind. Hua Shifang was annoyed to death by these toasters. At first, he wanted to hold back his temper and not cause trouble to his precious apprentice. Now that he saw this posture, he didn't bother to pretend to be good-tempered anymore. He muttered a few perfunctory and impatient words, put down his chopsticks, and walked back with Nan Yan and the others. "Brother, why are they so respectful to us all of a sudden? Sun Chan is relatively straight-minded and can't react to the situation." Fu Yubai explained to him at the side, "Uncle Master, they are looking at the face of the old man of the Sheng family and want to please Master by trying to please him. I just wanted to get close by the way, thinking that if I get sick in the future, I'd like to come to Master to treat them." Sun Chan immediately snorted coldly, "Weasel wishes you a happy new year. It's not a good intention. The people in this Sheng family are all a bunch of snobs." He despised such people the most. Fu Yubai. He was speechless. Hua Shifang frowned slightly. After arriving at Tingyu Pavilion, he looked at Qin Lu. "Come in with me." Qin Lu said respectfully, "Yes, Mr. Hua." Nan Yan originally wanted to follow him in, but Hua Shifang closed the door after Qin Lu followed him in. Nan Yan, who was locked out. Well, the master and her boyfriend whispered that she would ask Qin Lu later. Hua Shifang closed the door, walked to the table and sat down. Qin Lu has been standing in the room. Hua Shifang didn't say anything, and he didn't sit down without permission. "Alu, come and sit." As soon as he spoke, Qin Lu responded and sat down opposite him. He poured a cup of tea for Hua Shifang, handed it to him with both hands, and asked, "By the way, Mr. Hua, what do you want to ask me?" Hua Shifang took it and took a sip of tea. His sharp eyes met his dark eyes. "If the Sheng family doesn't plan to let us leave in 3 days, are you sure you can take Yanyan away?" When Nan Yan and Qin Lu cracked the Sheng family network in the afternoon, they walked around the town. This turn allowed him to discover how strong the town's defenses were. Not only are every exit monitored and guarded, they are also equipped with long-range and short-range attack weapons, and there are even mechanisms on the walls. In addition to the guards on the surface, there are also secret guards and intelligent defense equipment hidden in the dark. This small town of Shenjia is easy to get in but difficult to get out. Think about it, the Sheng family has been prosperous for nearly 1,000 years, how could it be any worse? He needs to prepare for the worst in advance. "Mr. Hua, you don't have to worry about this, they can't stop us." Qin Lu looked calmly and gave Hua Shifang a calming needle. "First, my people are waiting for news outside. If we want to leave, we can leave at any time. It's not time now, and Yanyan doesn't plan to leave now." Hua Shifang was silent for a moment, then nodded silently. "In this case, Yanyan will be left to you. If something unexpected happens, you don't have to worry about us and just take her away safely." Qin Lu reminded lightly, "She won't leave on her own." Hua Shifang's eyes widened. "If she doesn't leave, then you knock her out and take her away." Qin Lu. "If he really does it, I'm afraid that when Yanyan wakes up, it will be the end of the day for the two of them. However, he won't let that happen." Hashtag. After Qin Lu came out, he was naturally questioned by Nan Yan. He didn't hide anything and told her everything Hua Shifang had talked with him. Seeing the little guy's silent expression, he reached out and rubbed her head. "Yanyan, don't worry, I won't do this." Unexpectedly, Nan Yan looked up at him and said, "You don't dare." Both of them have their own bottom line. If this bottom line is crossed, no matter how deep the relationship is, it cannot continue. Although they never said this, they knew it in their hearts. Qin Lu. This is what I said. But that's right. Even if this kind of thing really happened and it was a matter of life and death, she would not agree to it. She would give up her family and leave by herself. She would rather die with them. And he, too. The two of them are the same kind of people. Sheng Jing came again in the evening. Nan Yan didn't mince words and asked Shen Yuanhang's identity. While eating, she clearly felt the strong hostility coming from him. She tries her best to understand her enemies clearly. Sheng Jing hesitated for a moment and then said, "The man wearing gold-rimmed glasses is my eldest brother, his name is Shen Yuanhang." "Are you brothers?" Nan Yan looked at the grand scene and said casually, "You brothers look nothing alike." "No," Sheng Jing explained, "he is from my uncle's family. He and I are not biological brothers. In this generation of the Sheng family, there are 9 brothers like us, but my second brother Sheng Wen's is no longer here." Nan Yan is currently more interested in the Sheng family's affairs. After all, the better she knows about the Sheng family, the better it will be for her. Seeing that Sheng Jing brought it up on his own initiative, she followed his words and asked, "Huh? What's going on?" A fond smile appeared on Qin Lu's lips, knowing that the sinister little guy was going to talk. These matters were not confidential and did not involve the reputation of the Sheng family. Nan Yan was interested in hearing it, so Sheng Jing smiled and spoke warmly. "My second brother has been interested in medicine since he was a child, and he is extremely talented in this field. He dared to prescribe medicines to treat diseases without anyone teaching him. He only read a few medical books. Speaking of this," he sighed with some emotion, "if he could have met divine Dr. Hua and been lucky enough to become his apprentice, he might not have gone astray." When Nan Yan heard this, he raised his eyebrows in disbelief. If Shen Wen's really had such a talent, if the master met him, he might really accept him as his disciple. But why did he die? To be honest, she is really interested now. Fortunately, Sheng Jing didn't hold back for too long, and continued, "At first, he was interested in treating diseases and saving people, but later, he felt that learning medical skills was not difficult for him and was a bit boring, so he started playing with poisons. The Bishui garden you visited today used to be his residence. He planted many poisonous herbs and cultivated many poisons in it, which made the garden a forbidden place. No one dared to approach it easily. Even if he entered, you only dare to go around the door, because the deeper you go, the more dangerous it becomes." Sheng Jing spoke of these things out of selfish motives. Shen Yuanhang wanted to get forgiveness from Dr. Hua and the others, so he introduced Chen Sila as a scapegoat and took away his own responsibilities. It was not that easy. It's rare to catch him with a flaw, so he won't let it go. Now divine Dr. Hua is Grandpa's distinguished guest, and there is a high chance that he will stay in the Sheng family and become Grandpa's exclusive doctor in the future. Perhaps, the competition for the position of the head of the family will be affected by him. He had to plan ahead and pave the way for himself in advance. This is also the reason why he repeatedly expressed his goodwill to Nan Yan and the others. Actually, when he first switched to poison, no one thought there was any problem. But later, he began to try to use the poison he developed on people, using servants as experimental subjects, and he didn't take human life seriously. He killed many servants in the family, which made Grandpa angry. In a rage, he was kicked out of the Sheng family and sent to country M. After that, there was no news about Sheng Wen's for 5 or 6 years. When there was news about him again, it was bad news. He died from his own poison, and there was no body left. The family could only build a tomb for him. Sheng Jing and Sheng Wen's don't have much affection. After all, they were both young at the time, and because of their competitive relationship, they looked at each other as if they were enemies. Later, after Sheng Wen's used poison to kill people, almost everyone avoided him for fear of being plotted by him. This naturally includes him. Nan Yan was only slightly interested in what Sheng Jing said about Shen Wen's at first, but when he heard later, he said that Shen Wen's would use poison to experiment on living people, he suddenly couldn't help but think of Nolan. Nolan, that lunatic, is obsessed with experimenting on human bodies in an attempt to create new humans. With super talent in healing poison, he was once exiled to country M. During his years abroad, he certainly would not give up his drug habit, and he even died of it in the end. Could it be him who occupied the soul of the second senior brother? Ridiculous thoughts popped up in her mind. However, even she herself felt that this was impossible. Nan Yan suppressed this thought, and after a few seconds of silence, she couldn't help but ask, "I would like to ask, how long has he been dead?" "As of this year, it's been 6 or 7 years. Nan Yan's heart moved. The second senior brother started training later than her, but it was still 7 or 8 years ago. In terms of time, it seems to match up. Maybe, that Nolan is really related to Shen Wen's. But whether it is true or not remains to be tested in person after she returns. Miss Nan seems to be very interested in Shen Wen's affairs. It's true, Nan Yan admitted generously, maybe it's because we are colleagues. Mr. Shen, you said that he is a rare medical genius. It's a pity that he died a little early. Sheng Jing. It's not a pity at all, okay. If he doesn't die, others will probably die more. Does he have a study? If so, can I go in and have a look? Sheng Jing hesitated for a moment and then said, yes, but it is very dangerous in Bishui Garden. Ms. Nan, I don't recommend you go. It's really risky. His disapproval means he disagrees. Nan Yan could hear his voice over, so she didn't insist. She nodded and said calmly, thank you, Mr. Sheng, for your concern. Sheng Jing smiled warmly and said, this is all as it should be. After all, I brought you here. You are in the Sheng family during this period. If you have any requests, just ask me. After he left, Nan Yan looked at Qin Lu with a slight frown, pursed his lips and said, brother, I suspect that Nolan may be Shen Wen's. Qin Ye's little ancestor is a real boss. Author, Junanan. Chapter 492. Brother, I suspect that Nolan may be Shen Wen's. From what Sheng Jing said today, Shen Wen's style is very similar to Nolan's. Especially more than 10 years ago, judging from the age difference between the two brothers Shen Yuanhang and Sheng Jing, he was only a teenager at that time, and he was already viciously testing poison on the human body. Over the past 10 years, he has only become more and more perverted. And Nolan's abnormality index is relatively close to Shen Wen's. Qin Lu had not spent as much time in contact with Nolan as Nan Yan, and his understanding of him was not as clear as hers. But, since Nan Yan said it was possible, then it was possible. We'll know when we go back and test it out. Nanyan also had this plan. Knowing Nolan's true identity will be of some help in solving him. She knew clearly that the second senior brother had been subtly influenced by Nolan during their daily interactions with Nolan, but she still had hope that the original second senior brother could come back. Hashtag. In a flash, 3 days passed. During the past 3 days, Nan Yan and Qin Lu kept a low profile and quietly investigated the Sheng family, focusing on matters related to Shen Wen's. Others probably guessed that the two of them were busy with important things, so they didn't bother them unless necessary. During these 3 days, every time Hua Shifang went to see Shen Mingtang, the descendants of the Sheng family would find excuses to get close to him. Hua Shifang was annoyed by being disturbed too much, so he stopped seeing anyone and closed the door, finally feeling at ease. In the past 3 days, the Sheng family did not dare to embarrass them and provided them with good food and drink. Apart from not being able to leave here, life is going pretty well. But today is the last day they agreed with Shen Mingtang. It just depends on whether Shen Mingtang wants to let them go. Mr. Shen, You should be able to feel that your body has fully recovered. You are still weak now because you have been in a coma for a year, which has damaged your body. As long as you follow the diet in the future, you will get better after 2 or 3 months. Your family doctor has also read your physical examination report to you and confirmed that what I said is true. Should you let us leave as agreed? Hua Shifang's tone was quite calm, and he planned to have a good discussion with Shen Mingtang. He deliberately didn't bring Sun Quan here today because he was afraid that Sun Quan's bad temper could not be suppressed and a conflict would arise. It would be best if the Sheng family could let them leave as agreed. If they refused, at least there would be no conflict on the surface. After returning, he and Qin Lu would discuss leaving. Instead of confronting him head-on, let Shen Mingtang be mentally prepared in advance and upgrade his defense. Miracle Dr. Hua, isn't it good here? Shen Mingtang looked much better now than he did 3 days ago. He was unable to walk on his own before, but today he can walk about 10 meters on the ground without the help of others. Not only was he surprised by the speed of his body's recovery, but even his family doctor couldn't help but marvel. After all, he is an old man, and his body metabolism is not as good as that of young people. Because of his serious illness, he was in a coma in bed for more than a year. The family doctor also told him that if he followed his treatment, it would take at least a month for him to recover to this level. Shen Mingtang is now old and has experienced pain and suffering. At a time when he is afraid of death, how can he let a miracle doctor like Hua Shifang leave? He wanted Hua Shifang to stay and keep recuperating his body. If there's anything you're not satisfied with, Divine Dr. Hua, just mention it and I'll have someone correct it until you're satisfied. Hua Shifang's expression remained unchanged and he said indifferently, Mr. Shen, I told you from the beginning that I can't stay here forever. I hope you can let us leave according to the agreement we made at that time. You can think about it again. What I can give you is much more than you think. Shen Mingtang spoke in a condescending tone, Miracle Dr. Hua, I know you are a truly capable person. You also have a sect of miracle doctors. You are quite famous outside, but compared with the Sheng family, you are not at the same level. He has long investigated everything related to Hua Shifang. In fact, he was looking for him a few years ago when he felt his health getting worse and worse. It was only because Hua Shifang was escaping in Zhenengjia at that time that there was no trace of him at all, so his condition continued to be delayed until he was seriously ill and fell into a coma. After this disaster, he felt more and more that the Sheng family lacked a miracle doctor. A miracle doctor like Hua Shifang. Miracle Dr. Hua, you should be able to feel the prosperity and power of the Sheng family these days. If you stay here, not only will you be able to gain more glory and wealth than before, but even your few disciples will have a better life's future. Shen Mingtang tried to use this offensive to make Hua Shifang change his mind. Hua Shifang was silent. From these few words alone, he could guess that Shen Mingtang had no intention of letting them go. If he refuses too strongly now, it will cause him displeasure. Perhaps, he will directly threaten him with his junior disciple and apprentice. Thinking of this, Hua Shifang pretended to hesitate for the time being. This is not a trivial matter. I have to go back and discuss it with them. After all, I can't just make the decision for them without asking their wishes. Then Miracle Dr. Hua, please discuss it carefully. As I said before, as long as you can make requests, I will try my best to satisfy you, as long as you are willing to stay. Shen Mingtang felt that no one could refuse the conditions he offered. No matter how high his reputation is outside, Hua Shifang is just a doctor. Little doctor, if it weren't for his excellent medical skills, how could he be qualified to be persuaded so many times? Hua Shifang nodded, said he would go back to discuss with his disciples, and left first. After he left, Shen Mingtang asked someone to call Sheng Jing. Soon Sheng Jing came over, stood in front of Shen Mingtang, and said respectfully, Grandpa, you are looking for me. Shen Mingtang nodded and said, Jing, you have more contact with Hua Shifang's disciples, how well do you know them? The one I have the most contact with is Nan Yan, and I rarely communicate with others. Shen Jing paused and said, Grandpa, Nan Yan seems to be very interested in my second brother. In the few times we met, she asks something about my second brother every time. Your second brother? Shen Mingtang didn't have much memory of Shen Wenzi. He only remembered that he had a high talent for medicine, but he went astray, chose to make poison, and cruelly used human bodies for experiments, making the family a mess and full of complaints. After he repeatedly reprimanded him for not changing, he exiled him abroad to bring peace to his family. Who knew that he would get the news of his death a few years later? Of course, he didn't feel very sad. The Sheng family has many descendants, and the family affection is weak. There is no pain of sending off the young in ordinary families. Why would she be interested in your second brother? The day they came, my eldest brother sent someone to lead them to my second brother's Bishui garden. When I went to find them, the group was unharmed and killed the poisonous snakes that my second brother had kept in captivity. She should know about poisons and is probably interested in the poisons in my second brother's garden. Sheng Jing was also curious about why Nan Yan kept asking him about Shen Wenzi, but he couldn't ask directly. After thinking about it, he felt that it should be like this. Since she is interested in Wenzi's garden, give her that garden. Sheng Jing. Is that what he understood? As long as Hua Shifang and his apprentice are willing to stay, give them the best treatment. Sheng Jing hesitated for a moment, but still advised, Grandpa, this is not appropriate. He felt that it was normal to give Hua Shifang some special treatment, but giving the best treatment was a bit too much. Even the direct descendants of the Sheng family, such as them, had to rely on their strength to fight for treatment. It was obviously unfair for a group of outsiders to get such treatment easily. There must be many people who were dissatisfied. What's inappropriate? Shen Mingtang's face was majestic. Have you ever thought about how much benefit it would bring to keep a miracle doctor at home, and the apprentice of the miracle doctor? If we can keep them in the Sheng family with sugar-coated bullets, the role they play will be much greater than the treatment they receive. The reason why Shen Mingtang planned to keep even Hua Shifang's apprentices was to slowly, through subtle influence, make his apprentices feel grateful and belonging to the Sheng family. After they began to accept the resources and preferential treatment brought by the Sheng family, in order not to lose these, they would naturally be more loyal to the Sheng family in order to stay in the Sheng family. After Sheng Jing understood the reason, he couldn't help but sigh that the old ones are still the best. It was still Grandpa who had foresight and made plans for the Sheng family early on. According to Grandpa's meaning, they really had to do whatever it took to keep Hua Shifang and the others. Grandpa, I understand. It's good that you understand. In the next period of time, you continue to deal with them, get along well with them, and invisibly reveal to them the strength of the Sheng family, so that they will first yearn for the Sheng family. Okay, Grandpa. Hashtag Tingyu Pavilion. After Hua Shifang came back, he handed everyone over to his room. Master, how is it? Has the Sheng family agreed to let us go? After Fu Yubai asked, he actually saw Hua Shifang's face and guessed what the result would be. But after he said it, he coughed dryly to cover up his embarrassment. Hua Shifang said calmly, he offered a lot of conditions and wanted us to stay. I didn't refuse on the spot. I came back to discuss it with you. Sun Chan was furious and slammed the table angrily. What are we still discussing? How can we stay here? The Sheng family is a group of bastards who don't keep their words. They have deceived me. Master. Gu Chen quietly pulled his sleeve. Speak softly, the walls have ears. On the surface, there are no guards guarding the place where they live. But there are surveillance cameras installed everywhere. However, on the first day of moving in, Nan Yan and Qin Lu removed all the surveillance equipment in the room. They removed it in front of Sheng Jing. The surveillance in the room was removed to protect privacy, and the surveillance outside was left to prevent the Sheng family from using other methods to monitor them. They are talking in the room now. It's okay to speak softly, but if the voice is loud, the equipment outside can collect the sound. Sun Chan thought of this and lowered his voice quickly, but he didn't stop cursing. Old Sun, who had a bad temper, was really angry. Hua Shifang was calm and composed, and his expression did not show anger. So, without further ado, Alu, how about your people taking action tonight? Qin Lu said the same thing as before, anytime. Then take action tonight, we must leave. Nan Yan was also anxious to go back and confirm Nolan's identity. She was also worried about Shen Junqing and Bai Chen's physical recovery. So the matter was settled. Night. Qin Lu and Nan Yan cooperated with Qin Ye, who was outside. The two deliberately attacked the internal network of Sheng's family, and by the way, they forcibly broke through the firewall, causing all the networks to be temporarily paralyzed. Even the electricity was affected. The town, which had never had a power outage, had a power outage for the first time. At the same time, the smart home appliances, mobile phones, computers and other electrical appliances in the house issued network failure alarms at the same time. For a time, people who had been living in comfort were panicked. People who had been silent in the dark for a long time ran out of the room one after another. When they met people who had run out on the road, they began to question. What's going on? Why is there a power outage? And the network is gone. All the home appliances in the house are like crazy, beeping all kinds of beeps. It's really weird. There are hackers who dare to attack the firewall of Sheng's family. Are they looking for death? Don't know whether to live or die, looking for death. People who were forced to the outside world by the darkness began to discuss the accident in groups of 3 or 5. Because there has never been a power outage and they are overly dependent on smart home appliances, every household here has no backup power supply and no flashlights. Except for turning on the flashlight of the mobile phone to illuminate, it is pitch black everywhere. But the range of the mobile phone flashlight is too small, and you can't see the surrounding farther. Just when the Sheng family members gathered together to seek a sense of security as if they were facing a great enemy, and all the secret guards were dispatched to protect the direct bloodline, Nan Yan and the other 6 people wore black night clothes and walked quickly towards the exit. The guards at the door were very alert because of the sudden accident and raised all their weapons. In the chaos, accidents are prone to happen, and they are also worried that someone will take this opportunity to break in. In a quick action, Qin Lu, Nan Yan, and Fu Yubai dispersed to deal with the guards guarding the door. As for the guards outside the door, Zhang Sen and others dealt with them. 5 minutes later, the door opened and the two sides met. Zhang Sen, Master Qin, the plane is on standby 10 kilometers away, get in the car first. Qin Lu, yes. The two cars drove to the place where the plane landed in the night. After everyone got on the plane took off and flew to the imperial capital. The Sheng family's security team worked all night and barely fixed the loopholes created by Qin Lu and Nan Yan. Another hour later, the town called. The security team leader who manages network security came to report tremblingly. This time, the unknown attack caused some core secrets to be leaked. This made Sheng Mingtang furious, and he immediately ordered that the people who attacked the Sheng family firewall must be found. A messy morning passed, until the afternoon, when Sheng Jing went to Tingyu Pavilion, he found that the place was empty. Sheng Jing hurried to find Sheng Mingtang. Grandpa, they are gone. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Qin Ye's little ancestor is a real boss. Author, Junanan. Chapter 493. Grandpa, they are gone. Sheng Jing said hurriedly as soon as he saw Sheng Mingtang. Shen Mingtang's expression suddenly changed, and then he realized what happened and said angrily, "They did what happened yesterday. This shouldn't be possible." Shen Jing felt that Nan Yan and the others didn't have the ability. If they had such ability, would they honestly stay in the town for so many days? "Grandpa, I think it is more likely that they took advantage of yesterday's chaos and found an opportunity to escape. As for who attacked us yesterday, we still need to investigate." Shen Mingtang was also very angry before, so he naturally felt that they had something to do with what happened yesterday. But following Shen Jing's words, he calmed down a little. After thinking about it, he felt that what Shen Jing said was reasonable. He investigated Hua Shifang and Sun Chan, and found that except for a miraculous doctor's sect and a herb garden, there was nothing worth fearing. As for Nan Yan and the other young people, he simply ignored them. In Shen Mingtang's eyes, Nan Yan and the others were just disciples of Hua Shifang and Sun Chan. The master's abilities were only limited, so he didn't take them seriously, and these disciples didn't take him seriously either. If you think about it carefully, maybe yesterday was really a coincidence. Hua Shifang didn't want to stay at all. Just in time for yesterday's accident, they took the opportunity to escape. The more Shen Mingtang thought about it, the angrier he became, and he threw the antique teapot from the Ming dynasty to the ground. Humph, do they think they can really escape if they leave the town? Since they are given so many preferential treatment and they disagree with it as guests, then they can stay in the Sheng family as slaves. Shen Jing hurriedly walked to him, cheered him up, and persuaded him, "Grandpa, calm down, don't make yourself angry. The most important thing now is to find the person who attacked us yesterday. As for Divine Dr. Hua's group, why not leave it to me and I'll bring them back?" Shen Mingtang suppressed the anger in his heart, took a slow and deep breath, and said, "Okay, then you go to the imperial capital and I'll see how they can escape this time." Shen Jing responded, a dark and deep look flashed in his eyes, and soon returned to normal, exiting Shen Mingtang's room in a gentle and polite manner. Not long after he left, Shen Yuanhang also came. He knew from Shen Mingtang that Shen Jing was going to the imperial capital, so how could he sit still? Grandpa actually left this kind of work to Shen Jing. Does he value Shen Jing more? Can't. Absolutely not. Since Grandpa is determined to win the doctor from Hua Shifang, he will go to the imperial capital and bring those people back to Grandpa before Shen Jing leaves. Shen Yuanhang hurriedly found an excuse and came out of Shen Mingtang's room. Afterwards, he immediately arranged a plane and went to the imperial capital. When Shen Jing got the news, Shen Yuanhang had already taken the lead. "Third young master, the eldest young master has gone too far. This is obviously a task assigned to you by the old man." Shen Jing's assistant Chen-fei looked disgusted. Chen-fei grew up with Shen Jing, and the relationship between them is deeper than that of brothers who are related to Shen Jing. At least, Shen Jing knew that Chen-fei was the one who shared his heart and would never betray him. And his blood-related brothers are always trying to trick him. If Grandpa didn't tell him, he wouldn't know and he wouldn't beat us to it. Chen-fei was stunned for a moment, and asked a little confused, "But why did the old man do this?" A sneer appeared on Shen Jing's lips, then he suppressed it and said calmly, "Let's arrange the flight. Shen Yuanhang has already beaten us one step ahead. We can't waste any more time." "Why, isn't it obvious?" Chen-fei was naturally not careless in being able to follow Shen Jing. After thinking about it for a moment, he realized what it was for. Competition in this Sheng family exists all the time. Unless the old man decides on his successor, the competitive environment will never change. After figuring it out, Chen-fei no longer had any doubts and went to arrange the flight neatly. Hashtag Imperial Capital. Nanyan and his group landed on the tarmac not far from the courtyard. Not being here for 4 or 5 days actually doesn't make any difference to other people's lives. In addition to Shen Junqing and Bai Chen, There is also Mr. N in the courtyard. The three of them have a very good relationship now and occasionally play chess together. Mr. N is a bad chess player, but he doesn't admit it to himself. He always thinks that his chess skills are very good. Shen Junqing sees through it but doesn't tell him. Every time he plays chess, he gives in to him. Bai Chen grew up in a Western country and didn't know much about chess. However, when he saw the two of them playing chess, and Shen Junqing pretended to explain the rules of chess to him casually, he also understood it. After that, Shen Junqing saw that he was eager to try it out, so she stopped going on her own and asked Bai Chen to play with Mr. N. He watched. This time, he finally felt better. Seriously, playing chess with a bad chess player, or playing chess with a bad chess player who thinks he is very good at chess, and more importantly, this bad chess player still has baggage, he is his elder, it is really hard for him, okay. He couldn't win, and he had to work hard to make his losses less obvious. It's better now. With Bai Chen, an unknown apprentice, taking over, he finally doesn't have to have such a headache. Bai Chen was a novice, and it happened that chess attracted all his attention, and he was pecking at each other with Mr. N, two novices. But Bai Chen was smart and picked up the game quickly. In just 2 days, his chess skills improved rapidly. Gradually, he began to realize how bad Mr. N's chess skills were. Then I also learned how much effort Shen Junqing had to put into playing chess with him before. This is M. On this day, after eating and drinking medicine, the three of them played chess again in front of the stone table in the yard. Shen Junqing watched. Bai Chen and Mr. N were playing chess. No, I made a wrong move. I have to start over. Bai Chen, okay. Xiao Bai, how can you make this move here? No, you can't make this move. Bai Chen, okay, I'll change a step. You are a novice. I have been playing chess for decades. You must be at fault. If you don't believe me, ask Xiao Shen to come over and comment. Bai Chen, I was wrong. Shen Junqing didn't speak. He only watches the fight. Watching chess without speaking is a true gentleman. Bai Chen's head was getting big at this chess game. He felt that the chess pieces in his hand were like hot potatoes. He could only follow his words and said, "It's all as you say." Then, he looked at Shen Junqing without forgetting, "Hurry up and replace him." If he continued to accompany Mr. N, he thought he was going to have a myocardial infarction. Shen Junqing pretended not to see his eyes asking for help and turned her face away. Joke. He finally escaped from Mr. N. He must carry it out to the end whether his Taoist friends are dead or poor Taoists are dead. Seeing that Shen Junqing, a bitch, had no intention of replacing him and was still watching the fun, Bai Chen couldn't help but consider whether he should pretend to be unwell and avoid continuing to play chess with Mr. N. There was a knock on the door suddenly. Mr. N held the chess piece with some confusion on his face. "Hey, who is coming at this time?" Bai Chen quickly put down the chess pieces in his hand and controlled the wheelchair to move backwards. Could it be Hualao, Yanyan, and the others who are back? Shen Junqing sighed thoughtfully, "I don't know what they are busy with. It has been 4 or 5 days and no one has been seen. Mr. Hua and Mr. Sun used to come back every day, but recently they suddenly disappeared and had no words. It's really worrying. Hey, Yanyan didn't see anyone for several days before, but now even Mr. Hua and Mr. Sun don't see anyone. He must be busy with important things. Let's see if they are back." This is what they all hope for. With 3 people and 2 patients in wheelchairs, Mr. N could only open the door. Shen Junqing and Bai Chen both thought that Nan Yan was coming, so when Mr. N went to open the door, they controlled the wheelchair and followed him. The door opened and the person standing outside was not the person they expected to see. "Who are you?" Mr. N looked at the people coming. Several old men about the same age as him. On the surface, it looks a bit like an immortal. It was just the look in his eyes that made him feel a little uneasy. Mr. N has been in the imperial capital for a long time, but he spends most of his time in the courtyard to recuperate. At most, he goes to the Qin residence to chat with Mrs. Qin, drink tea, and if nothing else, he goes to visit his former boss. Friends. Despite his usual amiability in front of Nan Yan, in fact, when he was young, he was also a man of one word and had a strong aura. Feeling that the other party had bad intentions, he restrained the gentleness on his face and became a bit sharper. Who are you? Why are you here? Feng Zhenzi was also surprised that there was an old man living in Sun Chan's yard. Then he revealed his identity. This is where my junior brother lives. I came to find him. Mr. N asked, are you Mr. Sun's senior brother? Feng Zhenzi said arrogantly, that's right. He's not at home, you should come in first. Of course Feng Zhenzi knew that Sun Chan and the others were not at home. He just waited for him to be away from home before he dared to come. Hua Shifang and Sun Chan had been missing for 4 or 5 days and had not returned yet. The news had already reached his ears. He and Gu Bofan have been inquiring about news these days. Knowing that they had not returned, and that even the 2 apprentices Fu Yubai and Gu Chen were missing, I couldn't help but wonder if something had happened to them. Nan Yan's identity was mysterious, and Qin Lu was not someone they knew, so they couldn't find out anything about the 2 of them. But knowing this is enough. The Miracle Doctor sect encountered trouble before and almost had its sign destroyed. Now that even Hua Shifang and Sun Chan are missing, someone must be seeking revenge and controlling their personal freedom. This realization made Feng Zhenzi and Gu Bofan very excited. They wished that something happened to the 2 masters and disciples, Hua Shifang and Sun Chan, and never came back, so that the miracle medical sect would return to their hands and continue to create value for them. Of course, they won't reveal their intentions directly without determining exactly what's going on. Just use the excuse of coming to visit to spy on the situation. Since the other party was Sun Chan's senior brother, Mr. N did not block the door and made way for them to come in. Feng Zhenzi, Gu Bofan, and the people they brought with them entered the courtyard together. When Mr. N moved their positions, Shen Junqing and Bai Chen had already controlled their wheelchairs and moved out of the way. They sat side by side and looked at the unkind people. Shen Junqing was in a wheelchair, but he couldn't hide his extraordinary beauty. He supported his head with one hand and approached Bai Chen, raising his lips in a devilish way. It seems that we have something to do. Well, let's notify people. Both of them are patients now, so they can't fight directly. Fortunately, they have people around, so it's easy to protect Sun Chan's yard from being touched by people with ulterior motives. The 2 of them didn't know where they got the tacit understanding, and they happened to look at each other, then retracted their gazes and called their own people. After Feng Zhenzi and Gu Bofan came in, they went inside. Although Mr. N thought they were Sun Chan's brothers, as outsiders, they shouldn't enter and leave Sun Chan's place at will. But in terms of relationship, he was an outsider, and he had no qualifications, and he shouldn't say anything casually. He just followed them and saw what they wanted to do. Where is your master? The medicine apprentice was doing his daily homework, and suddenly saw Feng Zhenzi and Gu Bofan coming over, and hurriedly stood up in a panic. Even if the apprentices didn't like them, they were still the master's brothers and sisters, so they could only answer, Master and Uncle have something to do, so they haven't been home these days. Feng Zhenzi and Gu Bofan looked at each other, and saw excitement in each other's eyes. It seems that they are really in trouble. As long as Hua Shifang and Sun Chan are in trouble, their Divine Doctor sect and Baiko Garden will all be theirs. This is the result they dreamed of. If it weren't for the wrong occasion, they would have wanted to laugh 3 times to express their joy. Feng Zhenzi suppressed his excitement and ecstasy, and said solemnly, it seems that they have encountered difficulties. We, as fellow apprentices, cannot stand idly by. In this way, we will temporarily manage the Divine Doctor sect and the herb garden. When they come back, we will let them take over. The medicine apprentice had an incomprehensible expression on his face. No, Master and Uncle Master are just going on vacation for a few days. They didn't encounter any difficulties. And the day before yesterday, Master called to warn me that I must take good care of the herbs in the yard. If he comes back and they don't grow well, he will break my legs. Uncle Master Hua also told us to take good care of Mr. An, Mr. Shen and Mr. Bai, and said that he would change the prescription for them after he came back. The words of several medicine apprentices made Feng Zhenzi and Gu Bofan confused. Did they call back? Aren't their freedom controlled? How can they call back? Are you telling the truth? Or are you afraid that we will worry, so you don't want to tell us the truth? Several medicine apprentices said with certainty, Grand Elder, of course what we said is true. Before, Hua Shifang and his team blocked the signal, but with Nan Yan and Qin Lu here, it would only take a few minutes to restore the communication. They were also afraid that people here would worry, so they called to report that Ping'an was safe. However, the medicine apprentices were simple-minded and obeyed Hua Shifang and Sun Chan's words, so they didn't doubt it at all. And Mr. An and his three friends considered more than them, so they were naturally more worried. Qin Ye's little ancestor is a real boss. Author, Junanan. Chapter 494. It seems that their worries are not unnecessary. Look, in the past few days, other people have come to the door and want to rob things. Mr. An doesn't know what the identities of Feng Zhenzi and Gu Bofan are, but since he is here, he can't let these people mess around in the courtyard. Saying this should be able to scare them. Sure enough, Feng Zhenzi and Gu Bofan couldn't help but panic when they heard that Hua Shifang and the others were not out of contact and could still contact this side. They wanted to come and rob the Divine Doctor sect and Baiko Garden because Hua Shifang and Sun Chan had lost contact and might be controlled by a powerful force. If things are different from what they thought, Hua Shifang and the others are not in trouble, then if they know their plans, won't they be in trouble again? Thinking of this, the two exchanged glances and felt that they needed to make a long-term plan. At least, wait and see for a few more days. If Hua Shifang and the others haven't come back, it won't be too late for them to come again. At that moment, Feng Zhenzi said with a smile, since senior brother Hua and junior brother Sun will be back soon, we don't have to worry about the Divine Doctor sect and Baiko Garden. When they come back, we can come to see them again. As he said that, he pretended to be calm and left. A group of people came with a fierce momentum, and left inexplicably embarrassed. Shen Junqing and Bai Chen were waiting for their own people to come after the phone call. It turned out that Feng Zhenzi and his people had not been here for 5 minutes and were about to leave. So will they deal with them, or not? The two looked at each other and exchanged glances for a moment. After thinking about it, they decided not to do it for the time being. After all, the other party hadn't done anything yet, and they hit people. If they hit the wrong person, it would not be appropriate. The three of them sent Feng Zhenzi, Gu Bofan, and others to the door. Feng Zhenzi said a few words casually, and then went to open the door with a frustrated face, ready to leave. Hey, we didn't even knock on the door, and it opened by itself. Who was so perceptive that he knew we were coming back? Sun Chan's teasing words made Feng Zhenzi's face freeze. They actually came back at this time. They walked face to face with them and were blocked at the door. Feng Zhenzi's heart, at this time, beat as fast as it could. Soon, he suppressed his panic, smiled, and said enthusiastically, Junior brother Sun, Senior brother Hua, you are finally back. Elder Gu and I were worried about you, so we came to see you. I didn't expect it to be such a coincidence that we just happened to meet you back. Haha. Feng Zhenzi paused, and saw that the expressions of the people opposite were cold and distant. No one responded to his words, so he could only say awkwardly, "Now that we see that you are fine, we are relieved." Gu Bofan also followed up and said, "Indeed, I'm glad you are fine. We are fine, we can't be better, so you don't have to pretend to be concerned and do some sneaky things." Sun Chan's words did not give them any face. The friendship between them had disappeared over the years and even turned into hatred. Sun Chan naturally knew how much Feng Zhenzi and Gu Bofan wanted the Divine Doctor sect and Baiko Garden. They couldn't wait to come to the door and rob them when they heard that they had been missing for a few days. Such people were not worthy of being his brothers. His only senior brother was senior brother Hua. Feng Zhenzi said quickly, "Brother Sun, you misunderstood. We are really worried about you. We have lived together for decades. Although we are not brothers, we are brothers. The feelings we have had for so many years have surpassed those of ordinary brothers." "Enough," Sun Chan interrupted him coldly, "stop saying these hypocritical words. Don't forget that there is no friendship between us. This time I will treat you as coming to visit. Now you have seen the people, you can leave. The Saihewan does not welcome you, the Divine Doctor sect does not welcome you, and the Baiko Garden does not welcome you. If you take the initiative to appear in these places without our permission next time, don't blame me for being rude to you." Sun Chan was timid and his tone was very heavy. He was giving them the last chance. Let them leave. He knew that his brother didn't want to see them at all, let alone care about them. He made his words so clear. If there is a next time, he will never give them another chance. Feng Zhenzi and Gu Bofan wanted to argue, but seeing the cold faces of several people, they could only leave in shame. After the annoying people left, Mr. N took a good look at them, making sure that they were all intact, and then he sighed and said, "You are finally back. Yan Yan and Alu are actually with you, what happened to you?" Nan Yan went over to support Mr. N, and glanced at Shen Junking and Bai Chen, who also looked concerned. "This is not the place to talk, let's go in first." "Well, let's go in first." Shen Junking and Bai Chen looked at each other tacitly, and then picked up their phones at the same time, calling their subordinates, telling them not to move, and to wait for orders in secret. Nan Yan and Qin Lu accompanied Mr. N, and Hua Shifang and Sun Chan entered the room first. Fu Yubai and Gu Chen consciously pushed the disabled duo and followed them in. When they arrived in the room, Fu Yubai and Gu Chen went to make water to make tea, and were busy. Looking at the two masters who were not feeling well, Nan Yan took the initiative to speak and told the three people who didn't know about their affairs in the Sheng family. Of course, there were some things that Nan Yan didn't say that shouldn't be said, such as the speculation about Nolan's true identity, and the fact that they were imprisoned and had no freedom. Talking about this kind of thing would only make a few of their patients worry in vain, so it would be better not to talk about it. After Nan Yan finished speaking, Shen Junking asked softly, "Then the Sheng family is willing to let it go?" He didn't know much about the Sheng family, but he could get some clues from Nan Yanggong's brief introduction. Being targeted by a hidden super family, it's not that easy to escape. Nan Yan said coldly, "They can't do anything to us if they don't want to give up. When we were in the Sheng family, we just didn't want to cause too much evil. If Master and I really had this idea, we could kill the entire Sheng family. With the two of them using poison, there are many ways to quietly destroy the entire town. However, doing so will hurt too many innocent people. The Sheng family are not all bad people. Neither Nanyan nor Hua Shifang could do this kind of thing. We have repeatedly evaded and saved the people in charge of the Sheng family, which is enough to give them face, without even receiving medical fees. If they do it again, I will make them regret it." Hearing Nan Yan say this, Shen Junking's worries eased a little. He expressed his admiration for her without hesitation. He stared at her with a pair of peach blossom eyes and gave a thumbs up. "Yan Yan, you awesome." Bai Chen gave him a cold look, and he just had a mouth. After rolling his eyes, he said to Nan Yan with a gentle expression on his face, "Yan Yan, if you need help, you must tell us, don't carry it yourself, you know." After he finished speaking, Shen Junqing slowly raised his right hand. "Yan Yan, there is third brother here." Qin Lu raised his eyes coolly. Did these two people ignore him on purpose? With him here, would he let Nan Yan face those people alone? Three lines of sight met in mid-air. When facing a common love rival, Shen Junqing and Bai Chen share the same hatred and are unanimous in dealing with the outside world. Qin Lu was able to cope with the pressure deliberately put on him by the two of them with ease, and said calmly, "You two should take care of yourselves first. Don't let Yan Yan worry about it. It will be a big help." Shen Junqing. Bai Chen. "Dog man, don't pick up any pot." The two of them are now miserable patients. They can't stay with Yan Yan like him and face danger with her. Thinking about it makes them feel sad. Nan Yan and Qin Lu stayed in the courtyard for about an hour. After making sure everything was fine, they went to the Landis Hotel to meet Nolan. These days, Nolan was strictly monitored by people sent by Zhang Senator. According to Nan Yan's instructions, the food and water given to him every day were filled with debilitating medicine, leaving him paralyzed in bed. The state of being served. Nolan was going crazy with this kind of life. This time Wen Heng learned to be smart and refused to take over the control of his body. He hid in the conscious world and watched Nolan's miserable life of lying dead. "Don't tell me, he's pretty cool. When will Junior sister come back? I'm going crazy." Nolan roared countless times. The people who serve him in food, clothing, housing, and transportation completely ignore him and continue to do whatever he needs to do. Before leaving, Qin Lu also ordered that those who serve Nolan here are not allowed to talk to him, and those who change shifts must wear earphones to plug their ears to avoid being bewitched by him. After Nolan finished his rant and received no response, he ran to the conscious world to bother Wen Heng. "Wen Heng, let's change, and you can control the body." "No, I won't change." Wen Heng didn't dare to appear too gloating. "Such a comfortable life will surely bring you happiness. I'll just take a look. God is so blessed. Is it a blessing to be served, eat, drink, and have sex without having to do anything by yourself? Whoever dares to say this in front of him will let him enjoy this blessing. Too painful." If he had known how painful it was, he would never have agreed to Nan Yan's request. Of course, he had previously thought that he could detoxify. He thought that with his genetically enhanced physique, he could slowly detoxify himself and make the poison he took slowly lose its effectiveness. As a result, who knew that Nan Yan would let these people continue to put poison in his daily diet? She is not afraid that he will be poisoned to death. Nolan's expression was twisted and ferocious, and he almost roared angrily, "I'm not negotiating with you now, I have to change." Wen Heng's expression turned serious. He suddenly laughed at himself. "Nolan, you have never regarded me as your companion, have you?" He also has the self-awareness. The reason why Nolan bewitches and assimilates him is not because of how important he is to him. But the bond between his soul and this body is much stronger than his foreign soul. He has the power to pull him to death together. Nolan turned him into his kind in order to avoid being threatened by him again. However, no matter how clear-headed he was, he still couldn't resist the obsession in his heart, and he was willing to fall and become his vassal. Nolan couldn't help but explain in annoyance, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that. It was the torture of the past few days that made me lose control of my emotions and said some things that I shouldn't have said. I really regard you as a companion. We are the closest to each other, man, really." He finally managed to brainwash Wen Heng, and he must not let him wake up again. Otherwise, everything he had done before would be in vain. Wen Heng did not respond to his words, and said indifferently, "Switch, I will control the body." Seeing this, Nolan did not continue to explain, and with a flash of consciousness, he exchanged positions with him. He arrived at the sea of consciousness, and Wenheng controlled the body. After Wenheng entered his body, the first feeling was numbness. His limbs were numb and he had no feeling at all, let alone moving, even his little fingers could not be hooked. All over his body, except for his eyeballs, everything else was motionless and could not move at all. It was okay for a few minutes. But maintaining this state all the time would really drive people crazy. He somewhat understood why Nolan had such a bad temper. Wenheng lowered his eyes in silence, trying to ignore the numbness in his body, so that he could use his brain more and divert his attention. He should think carefully about what kind of relationship he and Nolan should have. The closed door opened again after being closed for 2 hours. According to the time, it should not be the time to feed and drink water, nor the time to solve physiological needs. So, what is it for? He couldn't move his head, his eyes could move, but he couldn't see the position of the door. He could only wait until the person came within his field of vision. Listening to the footsteps, there were 2 people. And the footsteps were steady and powerful, and compared with the footsteps of the guards guarding him, they were lighter. These days, he relied on hearing to pass the time. He heard the footsteps of these people and felt familiar. He could tell who anyone was as long as they entered the door. But these 2 footsteps were obviously not any one of them. Just when he was confused, a familiar voice sounded not far from him. "Nolan, how have you been these days? Junior sister. You are finally back." Wenheng thought he heard the sound of nature. Although he had only been alive for 2 hours, he was so annoyed that he wanted to knock himself out. However, he did not have the ability to do so and could only bear it. Now that junior sister is back, she should detoxify him. Second senior brother, you were driven out by him to suffer again. The figures of Nan Yan and Qin Lu appeared in his field of vision. Wenheng blinked and nodded, then said pitifully, "Junior sister, I'm almost dying, help me detoxify." Nan Yan took out a medicine bottle from her pocket, poured a pill and stuffed it into his mouth. Then he said condescendingly, "Second senior brother, please let Nolan come out, I have something to ask him." Nolan's expression moved slightly in the conscious world, and he hurriedly said, "Wenheng, let's exchange positions." After finally waiting for the junior sister to come back, Wenheng wanted to spend more time with Nan Yan. But Nan Yan looked for Nolan as soon as she came back, which made him feel depressed. Even if he didn't want to, he had to exchange with the junior sister. "Junior sister, after you ask him, don't rush to leave, chat with me, okay?" Nan Yan looked at Wenheng's pleading eyes, and after all, she was not too indifferent, nodded, and replied, "Okay." Qin Ye's little ancestor is a real boss. Author, Junanan. Chapter 495. Nolan and Nyan sat face to face, and Qin Lu sat next to Nyan. Nolan had just detoxified, and the feeling of weakness on his body did not disappear so quickly. He could only lean on the sofa, half lying down, and couldn't help but complain, "Junior sister, how can you be so cruel to me? I was almost tortured crazy by you." "You are not crazy yet." Nyan was not polite to Nolan at all. If it was Wenheng who complained to her, she might be able to comfort him a few words for the sake of their previous friendship. But the target was Nolan, so there was no such treatment. Nolan. The twisted and perverted heart became even more twisted and perverted. After being angry, he curled the corners of his lips, with a strange look in his eyes, and he clicked his tongue twice, shaking his head helplessly and said, "Junior sister, you really hurt my heart when you say that." "Sheng Wen's." Nyan suddenly called out unexpectedly. Nolan's face was stunned, and the surprise that flashed in his eyes did not escape the eyes of Nyan and Qin Lu, who were staring at him. Now, it is absolutely certain that Nolan is Sheng Wenzi. In his mind, Wenheng was also surprised. Because when Nan Yan called out the name Sheng Wenzi, Nolan's emotions fluctuated greatly. Wen Heng actually didn't know what the relationship between Nolan and Shen Wenziyi was. Although the two of them had some common memories, their current relationship was mainly based on Nolan, so he didn't know what Nolan didn't want him to know. But, how did the little junior sister know? Did she really find out Nolan's identity? Wen Heng couldn't help but be curious. Nolan's abnormality was also fleeting, and then he returned to normal. He pretended not to understand Nan Yan's test, raised his eyebrows and asked, "Who is Shen Wenziyi?" Nan Yan looked at his feminine expression and said word by word, "Shen Wenziyi is you, you are Shen Wenziyi." Nolan was still stubborn, "Little junior sister, don't recognize me randomly, I don't know the person named Shen Wenziyi you said." However, he was also curious about how Nan Yan found out his true identity. Did she go to the Sheng family? But even if she went to the Sheng family, his current name is very different from his original name, how could she associate it with him? Your expression and reaction have betrayed your identity, Nolan, whether you admit it or not, we all know who you are. Nan Yan didn't necessarily let him admit it. Anyway, she has confirmed that he is Shen Wenziyi, so he is Shen Wenziyi. No matter how he quibbles, it's useless. Nolan was silent for a moment, and finally nodded, and then he also asked his curious question, "How do you know my true identity?" "We went to the hidden place of the Sheng family during the few days we left." "No wonder." Nolan showed an expression of as expected on his face, and the next second, the smile was restrained, and he snorted coldly, "I didn't expect that someone in that place still remembered me." He had no relationship with the Sheng family for a long time. After being driven out by Shen Mingtang, in his heart, he had already cut off all ties with the Sheng family. But he didn't expect that more than 10 years have passed, and now he heard about the Sheng family again from an outsider. It's really ironic. Nolan restrained his sneer and raised his eyebrows with interest, "Let me guess why you went there." The Sheng family has never communicated with the outside world. It is difficult for outsiders to enter unless someone inside takes you in. But even if you are an insider, not everyone is qualified to bring people in, so this person must be at least a member of the family, and a powerful person in the family. You were in a hurry to return to the capital from Y City, and you once asked me tentatively if your master was taken away by the Sheng family at that time. Who is the powerful person in the Sheng family who has an incurable disease, so serious that he must come to the outside world to find Dr. Hua for treatment? Nolan calmly analyzed all the motives of the Sheng family. In fact, this is not difficult to guess. He himself came from the Sheng family and knew the strength of the Sheng family. No matter which aspect the Sheng family is in, it is actually at the forefront of the world, especially in the development of science and technology. The popularization and research and development of artificial intelligence have long surpassed the world's most technologically powerful country, country, but only in medicine, it is not so advanced. The medical talent of the Sheng family is probably concentrated on him alone. Except for him who studies medicine, the others are basically engaged in other fields. Even if there are people who occasionally engage in the medical field, their talent is not very high. It can be said that the doctors with real skills in the Sheng family's residence are all hired from outside. Every year, the Sheng family will send people to participate in the medical conference. When they see doctors with superb medical skills, whether they are Easterners or Westerners, they will spend a lot of money to dig them back to enrich the Sheng family's hospital. Therefore, the only possibility for the Sheng family to bring people in is that a high-ranking management in the family is sick, and the doctors in the residence are helpless, so they seek support from outside and find Hua Shifang. Although Nolan is very hostile to Hua Shifang, it cannot be denied that his medical skills are indeed very high. When Nolan was talking about this, Nan Yan and Qin Lu exchanged glances from time to time. Seeing Nan Yan and Qin Lu flirting with each other in front of him, Nolan's face became a little gloomy. Considering his current situation as a prisoner, he just snorted a few times. If it was a few days ago, when he was just caught by Nan Yan, he might be a little arrogant and lose his temper. But after these few days of torture, he has also seen the reality a little. They really have a way to control him and prevent him from escaping. He doesn't want to be a prisoner forever, he wants to live freely. After thinking about it, Nolan suddenly said, "Little junior sister, how do you want to deal with me?" He must find out what Nan Yan will do to him. Otherwise, he can't plan to escape. But I should have told you in advance that if I die, your second senior brother will die with me. He doesn't have the ability like me to transfer his body at will. If he dies, he is really dead, but I can transfer his soul out and find another parasite before his body completely loses its ability to move. If you don't want to see your second senior brother die, don't restrict my freedom. I promise that I won't escape and stay with you forever. His request this time is different from the previous one. Before, he wanted to get away and escape, but this time, he has to stay with Nan Yan so that he can take the opportunity to assimilate her. Looking back now, he shouldn't have left before. If he had stayed with her, maybe he would have succeeded long ago. Nan Yan said word by word, "I won't let you die." Nolan's face was gloomy. "I have a chance to kill myself." "You can try this time." Nan Yan would not accept his threat at all. Seeing that the threat was ineffective, Nolan's expression changed and he started to play the victim again. "Junior sister, a prodigal son who returns is worth more than gold, and the sea of suffering is endless. Turning back is the shore, putting down the butcher knife and becoming a Buddha on the spot. Can you give me a chance to reform? I promise to change and be a good person in the future, a person as upright as you. You can't kill me, just give me a chance." He said these things without embarrassment. Nan Yan and Qin Lu were embarrassed by him and wanted to deduct a palace. They were expressionless and laughed at him, and ignored his words directly. "Junior sister, even the most heinous death row prisoners have a kind side. Don't beat me to death with a stick." Nolan said this. Nan Yan just wanted to sneer. Maybe those heinous villains also have a side of conscience. But Nolan, who is an antisocial and anti-human personality with human nature is evil, will never become better. His roots are all rotten. Nan Yan felt that if he was cut open, his heart would be black. "Nan Yan, what do you want me to do to stay with you?" After acting like a spoiled child and acting cute, which didn't work at all, Nolan finally lost his temper. "I can satisfy your wish," Nan Yan said. Qin Lu glanced at her subconsciously, wondering what the little girl was thinking. Nolan is such a dangerous person, and he is very good at hiding. If he escapes after being free and does something harmful to society, it will be more difficult to catch him than before. Ordinary people know that failure makes one wiser. Not to mention people like Nolan. Nan Yan gave him a reassuring look. She just asked him to stay with her, but she didn't mean to let him go free. In her eyes, Nolan has long been the top dangerous person, and she can't kill him, so she can only work harder and keep a close eye on him, not giving him another chance to do bad things. Even Nolan didn't expect Nan Yan to give in so easily, and couldn't help asking subconsciously, "Do you really agree to let me stay with you?" "Do I have to lie to you?" Nan Yan said indifferently, "but, I have a condition." "What condition?" "You will give up the control of your body for 2/3 of the time to my second senior brother." Nan Yan's idea is to let him retreat back to consciousness and completely hand over his body to Wen Hung. But she also knows that Nolan will never agree. That's why she had to settle for the second best and asked Wen Hung for more than half of the control time. Only when Wen Hung controls the body can she find an opportunity and find a way to restore Wen Hung to his original state. Nolan's face changed slightly, and then he shook his head fiercely. "No, I can only give him half at most." "Then half, with midnight and noon as the boundary, you and him each control for 12 hours. Okay." What Nolan thought was that he had already occupied the dominant position of this body, and he did not need to strictly follow Nan Yan's request and give half of the time to Wen Heng. As long as he was in front of her, let Wen Heng come out to control the body. However, Wen Heng was not calm at this time. He did not expect that Nan Yan would make such a request for him. He is still very important in the heart of the little junior sister, right? Since you have agreed, don't go back. I will implant something in your body to monitor your soul fluctuations to determine who is in control of the body. Nan Yan's words directly shattered Nolan's plan. The gloomy sight, like a ghost demanding life, stared at Nan Yan without blinking. The breath on Qin Lu's body suddenly sank, and the huge pressure, with him as the origin, suppressed Nolan. At the same time, he took action. No, it was his feet that moved. He kicked Nolan's body, which was still unable to move, and sent him flying. He lay on the ground in a mess and couldn't move. If this little girl wasn't Nan Yan's second senior brother, he would have killed her. Nan Yan first glanced at Nolan, then held Qin Lu's fist, which was clenched in anger, and whispered, "Brother, the second senior brother is also in his body." Qin Lu said and his tense muscles relaxed. In fact, he didn't plan to hit him a second time. Nolan's body is indeed weak now. If he gets hit again, his life will be over. Nan Yan rubbed the back of Qin Lu's hand a few times to comfort him, and said, "Calm down first, I'll go see him." From the time Nolan was kicked away to now, no sound has been made. Nan Yan was worried that he was kicked unconscious by Qin Lu. She had promised Wen Heng before that she would talk to him alone after talking to Nolan. If he fainted, what would we talk about? When Nan Yan walked over, she found that Nolan was not fainted. But he was seriously injured, with blood on his mouth and nose, and there was also a blood stain on the carpet. Nolan rolled his eyes and looked at Nan Yan with a gloomy expression. After a few seconds, his expression suddenly changed. Wen Heng, who was instantly replaced and forced into the body, had twisted facial features and kept crying out in pain, "It hurts so much, it hurts so much, junior sister, hurry up, give me painkillers, I'm dying of pain." Every time Nolan's body was about to suffer pain, he pushed him out. It was simply too much. After Nan Yan saw that the person now was Wen Heng, she changed her plan to use her feet to push him over and let him lie on his back. She bent down and reached out to help him up. He must take painkillers. After giving him the painkillers, Qin Lu came to help, and helped Wen Heng to the sofa with Nan Yan. The treatment of Wen Heng and Nolan was completely different. This also made Nolan, who was secretly sulking in the world of consciousness, soar a little more. After taking the painkillers, Wen Heng felt that the pain in his body was disappearing quickly. In a few minutes, he was completely relieved. Of course, he was now forcibly relieved by the painkillers. When the effect of the medicine wore off, he would still feel pain. At that time, he could just take another pill. Nan Yan waited for his expression to ease before asking, "Second senior brother, what do you want to tell me?" "Junior sister, I'm sorry for what happened before. Wen Heng was full of guilt, I was confused before, and I was bewitched by Nolan. I know I did something wrong, and I can't pretend that I didn't do it just by saying sorry, but I still hope that junior sister, you will give me a chance to reform. I won't go along with Nolan again." Nan Yan smiled, nodded, and said, "A red man is red when he is close to a red man, and a black man is black when he is close to a black man. Second senior brother, you were just bewitched by him before, I believe you." Wen Heng was full of surprise. "Junior sister, thank you for giving me this opportunity, I won't let you down again." "Nolan, Wen Heng, do you really dare to betray me?" "Wen Heng, this is just a stopgap measure to let junior sister relax her vigilance against me." "Nolan, smart. It seems that what you say is much more effective than what I say." "Wen Heng, that's right, the relationship between junior sister and I for so many years is nothing you can compare to. Wenheng, for our plan, come on. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Qin Ye's little ancestor is a real boss. Author, Junanan. Chapter 496. No matter how much Nolan didn't want to accept Nan Yan's distribution of control over his body, he was forcibly taken to the hospital in the end. She performed an operation on him personally and implanted a small thing similar to a crystal in his head. That was a new monitoring tool developed by Junlin, which was managed by Qin Lu. Only a few were put on the black market, and they were not available on the ordinary market. Nolan and Wenheng discussed the time. Wenheng controlled the body from midnight to noon, and Nolan controlled the body from noon to midnight. After the crystal was implanted, the time was still 8 o'clock in the morning, so Wenheng stayed in the body. After coming out of the hospital, Nan Yan said to Wenheng, "Second brother, you have injuries. You should recuperate in the courtyard for the next few days." Wenheng nodded, "Well, I will do whatever you arrange. I will listen to you completely." The injuries on his body were actually caused by Nan Yan and Qin Lu. In addition to the previous control of toxins, his body was much weaker, and both internal and external injuries were quite serious. Just like now, he has no strength to walk by himself, and is sitting in a wheelchair, using the wheelchair to get around. When leaving the hospital, Qin Lu received a call, said goodbye to Nan Yan, and left first. Nan Yan's expression was a little solemn today, and she actually wanted to ask him what happened. But he didn't say much, and was anxious to leave, so she didn't ask much. If there was really a difficult matter, he didn't say it, she would find a way to help. Qin Lu left suddenly, because he was anxious, so he drove away. When they came before, Qin Lu was the driver and came in a car. Now that the car was driven away by Qin Lu, Nan Yan called Fu Yubai and asked Fu Yubai to pick them up. Junior sister. After Fu Yubai arrived, he greeted Nan Yan first, and then looked at Wenheng with a bit of depression and complexity. He had a good relationship with the second senior brother, but the person now is no longer the second senior brother. Moreover, the junior sister also said that the second senior brother has changed and is no longer the second senior brother of the past. So, how should he face him? As an enemy or a stranger? Anyway, he can't treat him as a fellow apprentice with the original relationship. Wenheng spoke first, helplessly and apologetically saying, "Third senior brother, I haven't apologized to you face to face for hurting you last time. I'm sorry. At that time, I couldn't control my body at all, and I couldn't stop him from moving. I was too useless." "Are you the second senior brother?" Fu Yubai realized that it was Wenheng who was controlling the body now, not Nolan. For Wenheng, even if the junior sister said that he had changed and would never go back to the past, he still had special feelings for him. A friendship of more than 10 years is not so easy to fade. What's more, when they were in Chenangjia, the relationship between them was closer than that of brothers. Now that Wenheng has become like this, he is more distressed and unable to help him get rid of the pain of Nolan. Wenheng nodded, "Yes, it's me. Junior sister helped me and let Nolan give me half of his time to control his body. I will spend the next period of time recuperating in Uncle Sun's courtyard. We can be together again in the future." Fu Yubai was still very happy that Wenheng could control his body. After all, in his heart, it was Nolan who did bad things and had dark and despicable thoughts. And Wenheng was just controlled by him and couldn't resist. Now that Nolan was forced by junior sister to give half of his time to second senior brother, will there be a chance in the future to let Nolan roll out of second senior brother's body and no longer occupy second senior brother's body? If this is really possible, it would be great. After understanding the situation, Fu Yubai was in a good mood. On the way back, he chatted with Wenheng with a faint smile between his eyebrows. When they returned to the courtyard, the atmosphere changed a little when the few people who were playing chess saw them coming back. Bai Chen has learned from Shen Junking. This time, he did not play chess, but let Hua Shifang and Mr. N play, and a group of people were around as spectators. When Mr. N played chess with Hua Shifang, he naturally could not say that he did not understand the rules and could not play. Hua Shifang was also a righteous man, and his chess style was more domineering. Mr. N had a hard time speaking, and he was beaten to pieces, but he did not dare to destroy the chess. Fortunately, Nan Yan and the others came, and he quickly threw the chess pieces. Yan Yan is here, I don't want to play anymore. He secretly swore in his heart that he would never play chess with Hua Shifang in the future. It was not until now that he began to reflect on whether his chess skills were too bad. No wonder old man Lu was so angry every time he played chess with him, and he kept arguing with him. If Mr. Lu knew that Mr. N finally had some self-knowledge, he would probably cry with joy. Of course, Mr. Lu was coaxing Mr. N to play before. After all, Mr. N was in poor health at the time, had few friends, and was too lazy to go out and make new friends. He felt sorry for Mr. N and was willing to take more time to accompany him. Otherwise, as the president of the art association, he was so busy every day, how could he have time to go to him to play chess? Seeing this, Hua Shifang also put down the chess piece. Wenheng greeted Hua Shifang and Sun Chan guiltily, and then took the initiative to explain his current situation. Since you can be the master of half the time, then stay here to recuperate. Hua Shifang meant that if Wenheng's body was still controlled by Nolan, he would not allow him to stay here. Last time, Nolan stayed here and relied on Wenheng's identity to deceive Sun Chan and Fu Yubai's trust, but Fu Yubai almost died. Combined with the indignant, cruel, and bloody things Nolan had done before, if the man in front of him had not occupied the body of his second apprentice, he would have had the urge to clean up the mess. Wenheng said quickly, "Master, I will correct myself, stabilize my mind, and no longer be controlled by Nolan." "Well, this is the best." Shen Junking and Bai Chen, the two patients, had no good feelings towards the new patient. But considering that this was Nan Yan's second senior brother, they maintained superficial peace for the three of them sitting in wheelchairs. Nan Yan had lunch in the courtyard before going back to find Qin Lu. Qin Lu had not contacted her since he left. She was worried that Qin Lu had encountered a problem. Hashtag Imperial Capital Airport. A plane with a strange appearance landed slowly. But there was another plane that landed on two aprons almost one after the other. When Shen Yuanhang got off the plane, Sheng Jing happened to open the cabin door. The two looked at each other from a distance of dozens of meters. Then they turned their eyes away at the same time, pretending not to see each other, and walked away from two directions. Since both of them were arranged by Shen Mingtang to come here to catch Hua Shifang and others, they were openly competitors. Besides, this was not the Sheng family's residence, so there was no need to maintain the illusion of deep brotherly love. Here, everyone had to rely on their abilities to see who could bring the person Shen Mingtang wanted back first. Shen Mingtang was over 80 years old. Even if he was ambitious and reluctant to give up power, it was time to hand over power. They had a hunch that in at most another year, Shen Mingtang might identify an heir from the 8 brothers. This was one of the few opportunities for them to show their favor and ability in front of him, and they must not lose it. "Go check where those people live now." Shen Yuanhang adjusted the frame of his gold-rimmed glasses and gave a faint order to the assistant who was carrying a suitcase beside him. The assistant bowed his head and said, "Yes, young master." On the other side, Sheng Jing and his follower Chen Fei took their luggage and were not in a hurry to leave. Instead, they turned on their phones at the airport and checked the location of the Divine Doctor sect. Chen Fei asked, "Third young master, where are we going now?" Book a hotel first. Cheng Jing operated on his phone and quickly booked 2 rooms in a hotel near the Divine Doctor sect. He knew that Hua Shifang and others had just returned from the Sheng family, and they were on the most alert. If he acted rashly, perhaps even he would not get any benefits. After all, this is the imperial capital, their territory, not the Sheng family. No matter how conceited he is, he will not forget the saying, a strong dragon cannot suppress a local snake. Only by knowing yourself and the enemy can you win every battle. He must win as soon as he goes out, not giving them a chance to react, and take them back to the Sheng family as quickly as possible. Therefore, he did not let the pilot return to the Sheng family on the plane just now, but was on standby here, ready to return at any time. After taking a taxi to the hotel where they had booked a room online, the master and servant arranged to check in, and washed up, Chen Fei came to find Sheng Jing. "Third young master, they haven't seen me, how about I go to the Divine Doctor's gate to check it out first?" Chen Fei's words made Sheng Jing think about it. After serious consideration, Sheng Jing said thoughtfully, "That's fine, but in addition to going to the Divine Doctor's gate to inquire, you should also ask around the Divine Doctor's gate to see if you can ask some important things about the Divine Doctor's gate." "Yes, third young master." Chen Fei received the order and went to the Divine Doctor's gate in disguise as an ordinary person. The place where they live now is actually only 1 kilometer away from the Divine Doctor's gate. As he walked, he saw old men and women around and asked a few questions. Although Chen Fei also grew up in the Sheng family, he did not have the kind of high-handed and arrogant spirit of the Sheng family. In addition, he was here to help the third young master complete his mission, so he was very patient and humble, so that the old people he questioned would tell him everything they knew because he was polite and sweet-talking. In fact, what they said were also very ordinary things. But for those who came from other places and didn't know much, what they said was very useful. Soon, Chen Fei not only found out about the good things done by the Divine Doctor sect, but also found out that when Gu Bofan was in charge of the Divine Doctor sect, ordinary people wanted to see a doctor, but they didn't even look down on it. "You mean, the former Divine Doctor sect was actually controlled by Divine Doctor Hua's fellow apprentices, and only after Divine Doctor Hua came back did he drive them out of the Divine Doctor sect?" "Yes, Divine Doctor Hua is the real living Bodhisattva, a god who saves the suffering. After he came back, ordinary people like us not only don't have to pay for seeing a doctor, but they also give us free medicinal materials. In the past, we couldn't even think about it. The former Divine Doctor sect only treated the powerful and wealthy, and ordinary people without power and money didn't even look at them. The current Divine Doctor sect is better, it is doing great good deeds. Divine Doctor Hua is also a superb doctor, and his apprentices are also very good doctors. It's just that the former Divine Doctor sect people are unwilling to give up, and always come to make trouble. Some time ago, someone pretended to be a person who had seen a doctor at the Divine Doctor sect, and deliberately said that he was diagnosed badly, and wanted to destroy the honor of the Divine Doctor section." Chen Fei carefully wrote down what the old men and women said. And he also specifically inquired about the people who opened the Divine Doctor clinic before. He thought that these people might be of some use to the third young master. After inquiring once and hearing nothing new, Chen Fei went to the Divine Doctor clinic again. Today, neither Hua Shifang nor Nan Yan came. There were only a few Chinese medicine doctors who were on duty. Chen Fei stood by and listened quietly for a while. The Chinese medicine doctors on duty saw the patients in a formal way, which made him curl his lips. He felt that there was no need to watch it anymore, so he went back to the hotel. Back in the hotel, Chen Fei told Sheng Jing everything he heard and saw. After explaining it, he whispered, "Third young master, I think this matter may start with the few people who were driven away by Hua Shifang. The relationship between Chen Fei and Sheng Jing is almost like that of brothers. When there are no outsiders, they talk and chat casually in private." Sheng Jing tapped the table with his fingertips, thinking about something. 10 minutes later, he said, let's go and meet those people first. Since the decision has been made, we can't drag it out. Shen Yuanhang is also in the imperial capital. If he wants to find out about this well-known thing, he will know it. If he doesn't act quickly and let Shen Yuanhang get ahead, he may lose this competition. He can't fall behind again. Hashtag. Until 10 o'clock in the evening, Nan Yan didn't get any news from Qin Lu. She called. But he should be in a signal blocking environment, so the call didn't go through. Yan, haven't contacted the brat yet. Mrs. Jean came over with a plate of washed cream strawberries. Seeing Nan Yan's eyebrows slightly frowned, she couldn't help but comfort her. Don't worry, some of Alu's work is more confidential, and it's normal to lose contact for a few days from time to time. Some of Qin Lu's identities are unknown even to Mrs. Jean. But Qin Lu is so busy every day that she doesn't see him for a month or even a few months from time to time, and she is used to it when she calls and sometimes can't contact him. At the beginning, she was also very worried, but later she knew that her grandson was always fine, so she slowly felt relieved. She believed in her grandson's ability. Besides, this is the imperial capital. Even if there are enemies, they dare not touch him in the imperial capital. Nan Yan smiled when she heard it, took out a big and fragrant strawberry from the fruit plate, handed it to Mrs. Jean's mouth, and said softly, "Grandma, I'm not worried, I was just thinking about something." Even if she was worried, she didn't intend to say it. Lest Mrs. Jean worry too. Qin Ye came over and also touched a big strawberry in the fruit plate. She took a bite. The sweet and sour strawberry taste made her enjoy it and squinted her eyes. Then she took another one and stuffed it into Nan Yan's mouth. After Nan Yan finished eating, she said, "Grandma, it's getting late. You should go to bed first. I have something to go out for a while, and I may be a little late when I come back." Qin Ye's little ancestor is a real boss. Author, Junanan. Chapter 497. Yan, where are you going? Can you take me with you? Qin Ye grabbed Nanyan's sleeve, blinking her eyes and acting cute. Nanyan. She was going to find Qin Lu, how could she find him if she took him with her? She discussed with Qin Ye, how about next time? I have something very important to deal with tonight. Qin Ye glanced at Mrs. Jean quietly and saw that she was concentrating on eating strawberries. She leaned close to Nanyan's ear and whispered, "Little Yan, don't lie to me, you just want to go to Big Brother. I won't make trouble for you. I promise to do whatever you ask me to do. Let's go to Big Brother together. Please." Okay. Nanyan was so annoyed by Qin Ye that she could only agree. After Mrs. Jean finished eating the strawberries, she went to wash and sleep at the urging of Li Ma. Nanyan and Qin Ye waited for her to go upstairs and left the Qin family. In the car, Qin Ye leaned over and asked, "Yan, do you think that Big Brother is in danger?" Nanyan controlled the steering wheel with both hands and said softly, "That's not necessarily true. I need to check it out, too. But Xiu, don't worry. Your big brother is not so easy to be plotted against." Qin Ye nodded, "Yeah, I always think that Big Brother is the best. I never doubted it." Anyway, she admired Qin Lu 100%. In her eyes, her big brother was the best. Nanyan pursed her lips and smiled lightly. Without saying anything more, she increased the speed of the car. "Yan, where are we going now?" "Let's go to the company first." "Haven't I asked the secretary that Big Brother is not in the company?" "Borrow the company's supercomputer. My laptop can't run fast enough." Oh. Qin Ye didn't know much about these things. But it didn't stop her from feeling that Nanyan was powerful. She is indeed the woman that Big Brother likes. She is as strong as him. Hashtag. Qin's office building. Because Nan Yan called here in advance, someone was waiting for her. At this point, the company had already gone off work, and except for the security guards on duty, the building was empty. Miss Nan, Miss. The one who stayed here to wait for Nan Yan was Kui Wu, one of Qin Lu's 4 secretaries. Qin Lu held several positions, and in addition to Qin, he also had the Junlin group he founded abroad, so he didn't have much time to stay in the company. So the 4 secretaries were his right-hand men. After Nan Yan nodded lightly, she said in a cold tone, "Take me to the information department." "Okay, please follow me." From the first time Nan Yan came to the Qin's office building, Qin Lu told them that Nan Yan was here. No matter what request she made, she had to be met, and she had to be treated as the hostess. Kui Wu naturally did not dare to slack off. When he arrived at the door of the information department, he opened the door and pushed it open himself. "Miss Nan, Miss, please come in." The information department is the department in charge of network security, building firewalls, and preventing Trojans and hospital gowns from invading the company's network system. The computers here are all the latest and most highly configured ones. There is also a supercomputer. Nan Yan wants to use the supercomputer. Kui Wu watched Nan Yan walk directly towards the supercomputer, and his heart skipped a beat. Miss Nan is not going to touch this computer. That won't do. This computer is of great importance. If there is any mistake, the defense wall of the Qin group will be flawed, and the consequences will be disastrous. Miss Nan, if you want to use a computer, the computer configurations here are all world-class, and they should be able to meet your needs. This one. Kui Wu's voice gradually weakened under Nan Yan's sight. Inexplicably, he felt flustered and short of breath, and didn't dare to look her in the eye. Nan Yan explained, "Don't worry, I know my limits and won't affect the company's network. What I want to do can only be checked on this computer, so I can only use this computer." Qin Xiu also said, "Don't worry if something goes wrong. Yanyan and I will take responsibility and won't let you take the blame." She believed in Nan Yan's ability and said this to relieve the pressure on Kui Wu. Kui Wu. He is not afraid of taking the blame. Epsilon equals Omicron asterisk, alas. Since Miss Nan and Mr. said so, he didn't need to stop them. But he chose to stay here, so that if there was any problem, he could remedy it in time. Nan Yan sat in front of the supercomputer, and her breath first calmed down, and when her hands were placed on the keyboard and began to jump, her breath also began to sharpen. Kui Wu was stunned watching from the side. He really didn't expect Nan Yan to have such skills and abilities. The codes refreshed on the screen one by one. He was so close that he was refreshed before he could see them clearly. He was dizzy after watching too much. Is this really the speed that a human can achieve? Too strong. If he was still worried at the beginning that Nan Yan would affect the company's network security, now he is completely relieved. Miss Nan is obviously a computer expert, better than the few hackers he knows who are ranked in the top 10 in the country. No wonder Mr. Qin is confident in letting her do anything in the company. Half an hour passed in a flash. Nan Yan pressed the enter key, and a coordinate finally appeared on the screen. Qin Xiu was so nervous that she dared not breathe for half an hour. Seeing that she was not moving, he took a deep breath and asked quickly, "Yan Yan, did you find it?" "Yeah." Nan Yan's expression showed no sign of relaxation. Qin Xiu felt that Nan Yan's expression did not look happy. She was about to relax, but her heart was lifted again. She asked nervously, "Is Big Brother safe now, or in danger?" "No danger at the moment, but it may not be certain if time goes on." Nan Yan sent the location to her mobile phone, then closed the page, restored the computer to normal, and said to Qin Xiu, "Xiu, you go back first, you can't get into that place. Don't tell Grandma, I'll go find him." Qin Xiu's heart suddenly seemed to be clenched by a big hand. "Okay, then you must come back safely with Big Brother." although she wanted to go with them. However, she knew that if she went with them, it would cause trouble for Nan Yan and distract her from protecting her. She could only stay at home with her grandma and wait for news. Nan Yan closed the computer and stood up. Can you drive back by yourself? If not, let Secretary Kui take you back. Qin Shiu, no problem, but I'll drive the car away. What about you? Kui Wu said consciously, I'll still take the big and small one, it's just on the way. After sending the eldest lady back, I will be home in no time. Okay, Shiu, you go with Secretary Kui, I can feel more at ease. As for me. Nan Yan shook her phone at her, I just arranged a plane. Brother Qin. She doesn't have her own private plane now. Qin Shiu nodded, stepped forward and hugged Nan Yan. After the three of them left the company together, she and Kui Wu went to the parking lot. When the two cars drove out one after the other, they lowered the windows, said something to Nan Yan again, and then drove away. More than 10 minutes after they left, the plane arrived at the roof of Qin's office building. Nan Yan was already waiting on the roof. The cabin door opened and the ladder was lowered. The people above wanted to come down to meet, but Nan Yan refused. Then he took a few steps, jumped into the air and grabbed the ladder, and quickly and neatly got into the cabin. After a brief conversation with the person who met him, Nan Yan went directly into the cockpit. Destination, Principality of Yasuo. Hashtag Principality of Yasuo. Qin Lu fiddled with the teacup in his hand carelessly. Wu Yu looked up at the sky speechlessly. My eldest master, you are so calm. Since he was deceived by Duke Hall's Carl yesterday, what happened afterwards made him speechless until now. Who knows when Master Qin was favored by the Duke's daughter and confused her heart, and she must marry him no matter what. As a result, the eldest master ruthlessly refused, which also led to their house arrest in the Duke's mansion. If the young master does not agree to marry Miss Euphemia, they will not be allowed to leave. Young master, Duke Hall's Carl has decided to let you and Miss Euphemia get engaged in 2 days, why are you still so calm? Wu Yu didn't quite understand. With Mr. Qin's character, he would definitely not agree. He couldn't possibly go to Miss Euphemia, and he wouldn't attend the engagement ceremony. But if that's the case, why not try to get out? Mr. Qin was calm, there are still 2 days, no rush. Wu Yu was the emperor who was not in a hurry, but the eunuch was, but we can't contact the outside world now, and we can't call for external help. He was still a little puzzled. In fact, if the young master had the ability, it would not be difficult to leave here. Even if the defense was tight, it couldn't stop him from getting out. Of course, he was a little rubbish, and if he went out with the young master, he would definitely hold him back. Could it be that the young master couldn't bear to leave him here alone? When Wu Yu thought of this, he was suddenly excited, and his eyes were shining when he looked at Qin Lu. Young master, you don't have to worry about me, really, for you, even if I die, I am willing. Wu Yu expressed his loyalty to Qin Lu emotionally. Qin Lu glanced at him indifferently, don't be so sentimental. Wu Yu. I felt that my little heart was hit by a sword. Even if it wasn't, don't say it so bluntly. This is too hurtful. The person I'm waiting for hasn't arrived yet. This time he came to the Principality of Yasuo just to see him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have taken advantage of the situation and been put under house arrest by Halls. The problem is that he doesn't know the other party's real name or even his appearance yet, so he has to wait for him at the place agreed by the other party, otherwise he will probably miss it. Wu Yu, oh. So, he was waiting for someone. Epsilon equals Omicron asterisk, alas. Footsteps were heard outside the door. Not long after, the locked door of the room opened. A pretty and petite woman walked in. Mr. Qin, have you thought about it? Euphemia, wearing high heels, stood in front of Qin Lu with an obsessed look. with a beautiful face and a shy expression. When she first saw Qin Lu, she fell in love with him hopelessly. She swore at that time that she would be his woman. If she couldn't marry him, what was the point of her living? Except for him, other men were not in her eyes at all. Mr. Qin, I know you are not short of money, but if you marry me, the Principality of Yasuo will become your backer and provide a lot of help to your power. I'm not bad looking, I'm born noble, and I'm the Queen's favorite niece. There's no princess in the royal family, so I have a good chance of being adopted by the Queen and becoming the crown prince. Only someone as noble as me can match you, right? Euphemia said, slowly raising her hand and touching Qin Lu's cheek. Seeing this, Wu Yu's heart. Wow! This woman is so bold that she wants to take advantage of Master Qin. Should he stop her? Or wait for Master Qin to make a move? Wu Yu gritted his teeth, he wanted to protect Master Qin's innocence. Otherwise, what if the young master is accidentally touched by this woman and Miss Nan dislikes him? Thinking of this, he hurriedly stepped forward and stood in front of Qin Lu. Miss Carl, my young master is allergic to women, please stay away from him. Euphemia thought she could finally touch her lover's face, but she was almost blocked by this dog slave. She was so angry that her face changed. Get out of the way, I'm talking to Mr. Qin, who allowed you to interrupt. Qin Lu's hand suddenly clenched, and after Wu Yu blocked him and blocked Euphemia, he relaxed again. If Wu Yu hadn't blocked it in time, Euphemia's hand would have been useless. You should get out, Qin Lu said in a cold and indifferent tone, you look ugly to me. Euphemia. The lover actually said she was ugly. She was clearly a recognized beauty in the Principality of Yasuo, how could he say she was ugly? Today, in order to meet him and leave a good impression on him, she put on makeup for several hours and put on the most beautiful dress. Even Daddy said she was as beautiful as a fairy, and he dared to say she was ugly. Women care about their looks more than anything else at certain times. After being called ugly, Euphemia's pretty face was almost twisted with anger, and she pinched her bag fiercely. Qin Lu, don't be shameless. I like you, that's your blessing, even if you don't want to marry me, you have to marry me, otherwise you will be locked up here for the rest of your life. Don't you have a saying in China that if you don't drink a toast, you will drink a penalty? Think about it carefully, do you want to drink a toast or drink a penalty? The engagement banquet will be held in 2 days, I'll wait for your answer, and don't think about escaping, this place is locked by snipers, if you dare to leave this door, they will break your legs. After Euphemia finished speaking, she walked away angrily in her high heels. Wu Yu took 2 steps and stood back to his original place. Master, when will the person you are waiting for come? If it takes more than 2 days, will you attend the engagement banquet or not? After saying this, Wu Yu felt a chill suddenly looking at him, and he quickly shrank his neck. He just asked. If he didn't ask, could he just pretend that what was happening right in front of him didn't happen? After all, this is the Principality of Yasuo, the Duke's mansion, so we can't take them lightly, right? Qin Lu retracted his gaze and said indifferently, he said he would come, so he will definitely come. If he dared to ditch him, he would be thinking about this cooperation in the future. Qin Ye's little ancestor is a real boss. Author, Junanan. Chapter 498. The plane landed in Yasuo City, the capital of Yasuo Principality. Song Ye, who was meeting Nan Yan, followed her and left the pilot to fly the plane for the time being. Song Ye followed Nan Yan, walking aimlessly, and couldn't help asking, Miss Nan, where should we go to find Mr. Qin? Regarding Mr. Qin's disappearance, in fact, it was not a big deal in the eyes of their secret guard assistants. After all, Mr. Qin would lose contact for a few days from time to time. He actually felt that Nan Yan was a little fussy and made a fuss. With their Mr. Qin's ability, who can still restrict his freedom? Unless he wants to stay, no one can detain him. Moreover, it has been less than 24 hours since Mr. Qin lost contact, and Miss Nan was obviously too anxious. However, Miss Nan said that Mr. Qin is now in Yasuo Principality, which surprised him. This is not in Mr. Qin's schedule. No hurry, just wander around Yasuo City first, I haven't been here for many years. If she hadn't found out that Qin Lu was here this time, she might not have thought of coming back here. Since I'm back, I'll go see my senior brother. Song Ye didn't dare to object, so he could only follow Nan Yan obediently and protect her closely. The Principality of Yasuo is different from China. Here, it is legal to carry guns, and robberies and fights can be seen everywhere on the streets. If you are lucky, you can also see a gunfight and really escape from the hail of bullets. In short, democracy and freedom are highly liberal here, but relatively speaking, people here are more extreme in temper, and they can commit all kinds of violent incidents if they disagree. So, this place is actually very dangerous. This is Mr. Qin's woman, he must not let her get hurt. Just thinking about this, suddenly a heavy motorcycle rushed out from the corner of the street and rushed towards them with a roar. Damn! What you fear will come. Song Ye almost popped his eyes out, and his consciousness reacted quickly to protect Nan Yan from leaving. However, the speed of the motorcycle reached at least 250 miles per hour, and it arrived in front of him in the blink of an eye. Miss Nan, get out of the way. Song Ye yelled hurriedly, and rushed towards Nan Yan to push her away. It didn't matter if he was hit, the important thing was to protect Miss Nan. It wasn't that Nan Yan didn't have time to hide. There was a little girl not far behind her. If they got out of the way, the car would directly knock the little girl away. At this speed, the little girl would definitely not survive. She wanted to save her. When Song Ye came to push her, Nan Yan suddenly jumped up and kicked the rider's head with her slender legs. The rider didn't slow down at all when he was about to hit someone, but instead he accelerated excitedly because he was about to see blood. Unexpectedly, he didn't realize that he had imagined that the human body would be knocked away, and his head was kicked. His body turned several times in the air, and then fell hard to the ground. Because he was wearing a helmet and had protection on his body, although he was seriously injured, he saved his life. In the helmet, he had been unconscious for a long time, spitting out a lot of blood from his mouth, and his body was in a weird posture. At first glance, there were signs of multiple fractures all over the body. The motorcycle without the rider's control twisted the handlebars when the rider was thrown out, smashed to the ground, the body of the motorcycle was broken into pieces, and many parts flew out, causing people around to flee in fear of being hurt. Song Ye. He always felt that his name contained, so he was very wild. Now he realized that Miss Nan was even wilder than him. At least he didn't dare to do such a thing. He was not so sure that he could do all this without getting hurt. But Miss Nan dared. She is worthy of being the woman that Mr. Qin likes. Looking at the rider who didn't know whether to live or die, he swallowed his saliva and asked nervously, "Miss Nan, are you okay?" "It's okay." Nan Yan turned and looked at the little girl who was already scared silly. The little girl was only about 5 or 6 years old, holding a lollipop in her hand, her big eyes widened with fear, and her eyes were filled with tears. The little girl's mother hurried over from the side of the road, picked up the little girl, looked at Nan Yan with gratitude, but said nothing more and left in a hurry. "Oh my God, this is the eldest son of the Duke of Qiaoshiur. He is not dead. He deserves it. How many innocent people died under his car? It's finally his turn to be punished. SHH, keep your voice down. Aren't you afraid of being heard by the people in the Duke of Qiaoshiur's mansion?" There were people in the crowd who knew the riders, and they began to talk in a low voice. Song Ye listened to the conversation of those people and hurriedly whispered to Nan Yan, "Miss Nan, let's leave here as soon as possible. Less trouble is worse than more trouble. Although the eldest son of the Duke of Qiaoxiu's family was looking for death, this is someone else's territory after all. Even if they were in self-defense, it would be difficult to get away. Well, Nanyan was not interested in staying and waiting for people from the Duke of Qiaoxiu's mansion to cause trouble for them. Even if they were in trouble, she could call the eldest brother at most, and it would not be difficult to solve it. Just as they were about to leave, several heavy motorcycles appeared at the corner of the street. Their speed was much slower. When they saw their eldest son lying on the ground and the motorcycle was destroyed, they couldn't help but panic. Call the emergency number. Notify the Duke's mansion. While they were in a hurry, Nanyan and Songye left here calmly. Nanyan was too lazy to continue walking around. She looked at the changes in Yasuo City over the past few years and took out her mobile phone to call the senior brother. "Hello, who are you?" The phone was dialed, and a cold and low voice came to Nanyan's ears through the microphone. Nanyan smiled. "Senior brother, do you still remember my little sister?" "Little sister," Bozihu's voice was full of surprise. "You little sister, you can still remember to call me. Where have you been wandering these years?" "It's a long story, senior brother, I'm in Yasuo City, let's meet." "Well, send me the location and I'll go there right away." "Okay." Nanyan calmly ended the call, found a restaurant on the side of the road and went in, and sent the location to Bozihu. Speaking of which, after Nanyan graduated from Shenangjia, the person she had the most contact with was Bozihu. Moreover, she had asked Bozihu for money and financial assistance. Who made the second and third senior brothers not finish their apprenticeships at that time and stayed in Shenangjia? Only he finished his apprenticeship a year earlier than Nanyan and returned to the outside world. Bozihu also doted on Nanyan, the little junior sister, without any bottom line. As long as she asked for money, he never said no. Most of the time, he was afraid that she didn't have enough money, so he gave her more money. But just 3 or 4 years ago, Nanyan was in seclusion in the laboratory to study T-1 and T-2 potions, and the two had no contact. Nanyan thought that she would come to the eldest senior brother after she had studied it, but who knew that she would die in the explosion? After rebirth in her current body, she has not contacted the eldest senior brother. Mainly because she was worried that she would suddenly change her body and he would not be able to accept it, plus various things. It has been delayed until now, and she only thought of meeting him. Hashtag. 10 minutes later, a modified off-road vehicle stopped outside the restaurant. Then a man like the breeze and the moon got out of the car. Perhaps because he was a little anxious, his steps were very fast. Outsiders didn't even look at him for a few times, and he had already entered the restaurant. After entering the restaurant, Bozihu subconsciously looked for Nanyan in the restaurant. He looked around. Didn't find her? Could she be in the private room? Bozihu was about to ask the waiter when he saw a beautiful girl waving at him at the table near the window. "Big brother, here." Nanyan waved and motioned him to come over. The distance was a bit far, and Nanyan was sitting at this time. Bozihu thought Nanyan had disguised herself. After recognizing her, he strode towards her. The closer he got, the more he realized that it didn't seem to be the case. The girl's face looked like her original appearance, not the appearance after the disguise. Going a little closer, he saw that the girl was about 18 or 19 years old, and it was absolutely impossible for her to be over 20 years old. His little sister was actually 25 or 26 years old, so why is she getting younger now? Something is wrong. Nanyan propped her head up, smiling and looking at him as she approached. The expression in her eyes kept changing. It would be strange if the senior brother didn't react at all. Such a reaction is reasonable. Bozihu finally came to the table and called out uncertainly, "Junior sister." "Yes, it's me," Nanyan nodded, pointed to the seat opposite her, and asked him to sit down. "Senior brother, let's sit down and talk." Bozihu sat opposite her, with a questioning look, and looked at her carefully. Finally, he was sure that the skin was completely different from the junior sister, but it was his junior sister who was magical. Then he frowned and asked in confusion, "Junior sister, how did you become like this now?" "Senior brother, do you know about soul possession and rebirth?" Bozihu. Song Ye, who was forced to listen to Miss Nan's secret. "This is my situation. My original body died, and I was reborn in my current body and became the me now. Is this definitely not a plot in TV or novels?" Bozihu looked solemn and asked seriously, "Junior sister, are you kidding? How about I tell you some embarrassing things that happened to you when we were together in Chenongjia to prove my identity?" "No need," Bozihu hurriedly stopped her from revealing his dark past. "I believe you. No one dares to pretend to be you and come to me to test me. After all, no one can pretend the character and personal characteristics of the junior sister. He can tell at a glance whether it is true or false." Bozihu reached out to touch her head with pity. "Poor junior sister, are you bullied?" Nanyan smiled slightly. "I have already taken revenge." "Okay, what problems have you encountered this time when you come to see the senior brother?" "Senior brother, don't think of me as someone who only comes to you when there is something wrong, okay? Although, most of the time, there is a 90% chance that she does come to him because she has something to ask for. But Nanyan absolutely does not admit it, and wants to be justified. Anyway, the senior brother has always indulged her and spoiled her to the point of lawlessness. Obviously, I came to see you because I missed you," Nanyan said without any guilt. Bozihu chuckled. "Okay, it's the senior brother's fault. He mistakenly thought that the junior sister would not think of me unless she had something to do. Just punish the senior brother to treat our junior sister well, okay?" Nanyan felt embarrassed when Bozihu said this. She coughed lightly, blinked guiltily, and then answered confidently, "Okay." Bozihu couldn't help but smile even more brightly. Song Ye was a little uneasy. Why should he be told about such a confidential incident? He is just a small secret guard, don't let him bear such great pressure. But seeing that the two brothers and sisters were talking as if no one was around, and didn't care about him at all, he was relieved. "It seems that Miss Nan doesn't mind," he heard. "He is very tight-lipped and will never tell anyone about this. He can't let Miss Nan down for her trust in him. By the way, does Master Qin know about Miss Nan's rebirth? Should he tell Master Qin secretly?" Song Ye was struggling on the side, unable to make up his mind. Finally, he decided to pretend that he didn't know anything. With Miss Nan's concern for Master Qin, she probably revealed her secret to Master Qin a long time ago. As an outsider, it is not convenient for him to get involved. Nanyan and Bozihu are still reminiscing about the past. Having not seen each other for many years, the two senior brothers and sisters had a lot to talk about. It was past dinner time in the restaurant, and only their table was left, which was very quiet. However, the sound of kicking the door broke the peace. "They are here." The leader saw Nanyan and Song Ye and strode towards them. When he was about to reach the table, he suddenly saw Bozihu. His face suddenly changed, and even his aggressive posture was restrained. He bowed to Bozihu respectfully and asked, "I didn't expect Mr. Bo to be here. I bumped into you. I hope you can forgive me." The people behind also recognized Bozihu's identity, and quickly restrained their momentum, not daring to do anything rash in front of him. The smile on Bozihu's face faded. "What's the matter?" he asked Nanyan. As for the few people who were trembling next to him, they didn't mean to pay attention at all. Nanyan recognized their identities. They were probably people from the Duke of Qiaoxiu's mansion, who came to settle accounts with them on behalf of their scumbag young master. At that moment, Nanyan told Bozihu what had just happened slowly. No exaggeration, just stating the facts. After finishing, he asked thoughtfully, "Big brother, do you know the eldest son of Duke Xiaoxiu? Well, but I just heard about it, I have never met him, and I have more dealings with Duke Xiaoxiu." Bozihu said calmly, "Don't worry about it, I will handle it." Take the initiative to provoke and want to hurt the little junior sister. This hatred will not be treated as nothing happened just because Nanyan is fine and he himself is seriously injured. Dare to touch his little junior sister, it is a provocation to him. Nanyan quickly poured a cup of tea for Bozihu and said obediently, "Big brother, then trouble you. Although she can solve the problem by herself. But with a big boss, why does she need to do it herself? Besides, her own big brother is not an outsider." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Qin Ye's little ancestor is a real boss. Author, Junanan. Chapter 499. With Bozihu's words, Nanyan felt relieved to let him handle the matter at Duke Xiaoxiu's mansion. After all, this is the Principality of Yasuo, his territory. It would be a lot less troublesome for him to handle it than for her. Besides, she and her senior brother don't need to see each other at all. The people in Duke Xiaoxiu's mansion couldn't afford to offend Bozihu, so they left in despair. By the way, little junior sister, have you contacted the second and third junior brothers? Do they know what you look like now? Since leaving Shenangjia, the senior brothers and sisters have actually not seen each other that often. Just like Bozihu, apart from meeting Nanyan, others had been in contact with each other on mobile phones in the first few years. However, in recent years, because each of them has their own affairs, the relationship has gradually faded away. In fact, regardless of whether there is contact or not, this teacher-sect friendship is deeply rooted in the hearts of each of them. If anyone needs help, he will do his best to help them without hesitation. Nanyan felt a little guilty when she was asked. She, her master, her second senior brother and her third senior brother had already reunited, and only the eldest brother was left unaware. This was indeed a bit inappropriate. We are all together now. Senior brother, master has left Shenangjia and reopened the miraculous doctor's door. When will you have time to go back and see him? Bozihu was stunned. Master, is he finally willing to come out of Shenangjia? After being surprised, Bozihu asked with a smile, so, little junior sister, you went to the Principality of Yasuo specifically to tell me about this matter. Nanyan. This. Even more guilty. Elder brother, actually I have something else to solve. Bozihu clicked his tongue. It turns out that the junior sister didn't come here specifically for senior brother. Senior brother is so sad. He feels sorry for a certain little junior sister who has no conscience. Nanyan raised her hands and begged for mercy. Elder brother, I was wrong. Humph. Bozihu snorted arrogantly. Nanyan. No more eyes. Senior brother's snort is too delicate. Of course, his beauty was only in front of her, no one else could see it. Fortunately, Bozihu also guessed that Nanyan came here to see him just by the way, and his mentality was well adjusted. There will be an interesting engagement ceremony in 2 days. Do you want to watch it? Nanyan was thoughtful, and after a moment, he nodded decisively. Well, look. Junior sister, have you just arrived in Yasuo City? There is no need to find a place to live. Let's go live with senior brother. Nanyan raised her lips and smiled. Of course, I won't spend more on accommodation when I come here. Song Ye, who had been watching. Aren't they here to find Mr. Qin? Why does Miss Nan not mention this at all now? He can also see that Miss Nan, the senior brother, is definitely not low in Yasuo City. If he is asked to help find someone, It should be much easier than the two of them searching aimlessly, right? But Song Ye didn't know. In fact, Nan Yan already knew the specific location of Qin Lu. She checked on the map that his current location was in a duke's palace. So now I suspect that the duke's palace where the engagement ceremony will be held in 2 days may be the same duke's palace where she is going. In this case, she would wait and let her senior brother take her to see it legitimately. However, will the hero in the engagement ceremony be Mr. Qin? This thought suddenly appeared. Nan Yan's face became a little gloomy, and even his eyes became inexplicably dangerous. She has changed her mind. Tonight, she will go to the Duke's mansion to explore. Hashtag. Duke Xiaoxiuer's people who came to Nanyang returned in despair and told Duke Xiaoxiuer what they saw. You said the girl who hurt Liu knew Mr. Bo. Yes, Mr. Duke, not only do they know each other, but they also have a very good relationship. Mr. Bo said in front of us that he would solve our eldest young master's matter and not let the girl worry about it. We don't dare to go against Mr. Bo's will and forcefully bring the girl back. We can only come back first to recover. Since it has something to do with Mr. Bo, don't touch her yet. Xiaoxiuer has always been the first to win over Mr. Bo, who has a mysterious identity but is extremely capable. He certainly couldn't ruin his image in Mr. Bo's eyes because of a little girl. Moreover, in fact, Xiaoxiuer also heard from others that the reason why Liu had a car accident was because he was riding a heavy motorcycle on the road and almost hit the girl. Unexpectedly, the girl was no ordinary person. When the motorcycle was about to hit her, she jumped up and kicked Liu off the motorcycle, causing him to be seriously injured. In the final analysis, it was Liu who offended the other party first. That's what he thought, but Xiaoxiuer also thought that way because of Nan Yan's relationship with Bo Zihu. If it were an ordinary person, he would never let Nan Yan go. In his eyes, his son's life is very precious, and cannot be compared with ordinary civilians. He deserved to die after being hit by his son. That is to say, his son is still in the emergency room and still alive. If someone was really killed, even if he wanted to cooperate with Bo Zihu, he still had to seek justice for his son. Now, just wait. Hashtag. Night. Nan Yan quietly changed into a black sportswear that was convenient for movement. Song Ye was also very cooperative. He put on the emperor's black night clothes early and prepared to go with her. The two of them really wanted to make a move, but as soon as they went out, they were blocked by Bo Zihu. Junior sister, where do you want to go this late at night? Elder brother, didn't you say you have something to do tonight and have guests to receive? Well, I just need to meet the guests once. My assistant will take care of the rest. I don't need to stay there all the time. After explaining, Bo Zihu smiled. What's more, little junior sister, you are here, how can I accompany you? Others will not accompany you. But then again, you two are dressed like this, are you going to do something bad? Bo Zihu never asked Nan Yan what he wanted to do when he came to Yasuo Principality. After all, this was her private matter, and he always paid attention to his privacy. If she was willing to talk, he would be happy to listen. But if she doesn't want to say it, he won't force her to say it. So he said this in a joking tone without putting any pressure on her. Nan Yan was silent for a long time, then chose to confess, Elder brother, I want to find someone, and I am here because of him. Is he important to you? Bo Zihu intuitively knew that this him was a man. Well, he is the person I like, Nan Yan admitted generously. Master and the others all knew about the relationship between her and Qin Lu, so naturally they couldn't hide it from the senior brother who loved her the most. Bo Zihu was a little surprised. He thought that with Nan Yan's temperament, he would probably end up alone in his life. After all her thoughts are on research, and her personality is not that lovable. She is too independent, and she is very capable. The man who is with her will be very stressed. Unexpectedly, there are actually men who dare to pursue the junior sister. You are so courageous. Where to find him? I'll go with you. He was quite curious about Wei's junior brother-in-law. Any man who can take in his junior sister is a warrior, so he has to express his admiration in person. Nan Yan, go to the Duke Hall's mansion. Bozihu, oh. He felt that he seemed to have discovered some blind spot. But whether it was what he guessed, he would find out later when they met. Take the car and I'll take you there. Okay. Nan Yan happily gave up on finding a way to go to the Duke Hall's mansion and got into Bozihu's luxury car. Instead of sneaking over the wall and avoiding the guards as expected, Bozihu led them into the Duke Hall's mansion in such a swagger. The Duke of Halls even came to greet him enthusiastically. Mr. Bo, you are a rare guest. What kind of wind brought you here today? Duke Halls is a handsome uncle who is nearly 50 years old. Properly maintained, coupled with that noble air, he is a personable person. He was accompanied by a beautiful and charming woman, his wife. I hope Duke Halls and Mrs. Carl can forgive me for taking the liberty of visiting. Bozihu's words were polite, but his distant tone was not very respectful, not even perfunctory. But Mr. and Mrs. Halls didn't think there was anything wrong with this, and instead became more enthusiastic towards him. Nan Yan had never met anyone with her senior brother before, and every time she came and went in a hurry, now she realized that she didn't seem to know who her senior brother was. If he was a businessman, how could he be qualified to visit the first Duke of Yasuo Principality casually? Moreover, the attitude of the Duke and Duchess towards their eldest brother was subtly respectful and secretly surprising. It seems that it is an honor for them that senior brother can come here? It seems that her senior brother is also a hidden person. Yan, Duke Halls, and I have something serious to discuss. If you feel bored, go outside and walk around. Bozihu gave Nan Yan a reason to hang out in the Duke's mansion openly, saving her the trouble of being sneaky. Sure enough, when Duke Halls heard this, he was afraid of neglecting the distinguished guests brought by Bozihu, so he quickly found someone to accompany Nan Yan outside. But Nan Yan refused. I just walk around outside casually. I don't want outsiders to follow me. Okay, miss, if you have any needs, you can always tell me, Halls said in a very kind tone, and then told his wife, Madam, go see what Euphemia is doing. If she is okay, let her come over and accompany this lady for a while to pass the time. Okay, I'll go right away. It was inconvenient for Mrs. Carl to participate in the conversation between her husband and Lord Bo, so she went to find Euphemia and prepared to let Euphemia attack the girl brought by Lord Bo. In their opinion, since Nan Yan was brought to Bozihu, she must have an extraordinary relationship with him. They were fawning over Bozihu, but his attitude had always been indifferent. He did not participate in any political stance at all and maintained a neutral attitude. Now that Mr. Bo has finally come to visit, isn't this a sign of goodwill to them? They are probably the first family to have such an honor, so they must be treated well. Nan Yan didn't care what Bozihu did and took Song Ye out. After arriving in Yasuo City, Nan Yan checked the detailed coordinates of Qin Lu. No one needs to tell her now. She also knows which house in the first Duke's palace Qin Lu is locked up in. However, although she did not ask Halls to send anyone to follow her, there were many security guards and secret guards patrolling the Duke's mansion. Miss Nan, how can we find Mr. Qin? To be honest, Song Ye was a little worried after seeing the security situation of the Duke's mansion. The main reason was that they came in with a swagger, which was more difficult than sneaking in before. After all, there were so many eyes staring at them as soon as they came in. If they suddenly disappeared, it would be easier to attract attention. Nan Yan said calmly, why rush? Just walk around first. When you get there, you can see him. Oh. Song Ye scratched his head, always feeling that Miss Nan was a little too arrogant. But since she said so, she must be able to do it. He just had to be an honest follower. Nan Yan did not go straight to the place where Qin Lu was imprisoned at the beginning. She took Song Ye around the garden leisurely, seemingly wandering around aimlessly, but in fact, she also saw it in the residence. When they arrived in front of the locked door, Nan Yan raised her eyebrows. "This is it?" She took out her mobile phone and saw that her mobile phone had no signal. The outside has been blocked so severely, so you can imagine how high the shielding level of his son is in this small courtyard. No wonder, ordinary methods cannot locate Qin Lu's location. Nan Yan licked the corner of her lips and whispered, "You wait here. If someone comes to ask you, just say I went to the bathroom. If no one comes to ask you, just pretend to wait for me to come back." Song Ye, oh. So, Miss Nan didn't plan to take him in. She planned to see Mr. Qin herself? Come to think of it, someone must be left here to cover. Otherwise, if the two of them disappeared at the same time, it would be estimated that the people of Duke Halls would soon find out where they went. He still listened to Miss Nan's instructions and cooperated with her. The clothes Nan Yan wore were actually the same dark casual clothes as before. Just to look more formal, she added some accessories. But this did not affect her actions. She found a secret corner that was not visible to the surveillance camera and the most difficult to be discovered by the guards ambushing around. She trotted a few steps and climbed up the 3-meter-high wall neatly. There was no sound at all, and she paused on the wall for less than a second before she flipped over. The guards in this courtyard were all armed with real guns and bullets. If she was discovered, she would probably be shot into a hornet's nest. Of course, they would not have this opportunity. After Nan Yan landed, she pressed her body tightly against the wall to avoid the mobile surveillance camera. Her black clothes almost blended into the wall and the environment, and she was not afraid of the camera's scanning. After the camera passed, Nan Yan observed the distribution of the guards around her, and then entered the inner room like a ghost. "Who?" Wu Yu heard the movement, subconsciously exclaimed, and looked at the source of the sound with wide eyes. Nan Yan walked in slowly, and seeing Wu Yu with an expression as if he had seen a ghost, raised his eyebrows and asked, "Wu Yu, where is your young master?" Miss Nan, Wu Yu was stunned for 3 seconds before reacting, "No, Miss Nan, how do you know the young master is here?" Qin Ye's little ancestor is a real boss. Author, Junanan. Chapter 500. Miss Nan, Wu Yu was stunned for 3 seconds before reacting, "No, Miss Nan, how do you know the young master is here?" Wu Yu was really shocked. They are now blocked by signals and cannot contact the outside world at all, and the outside world cannot locate them, but he now sees Nan Yan. Nan Yan raised her eyebrows lightly, "Well, it's hard to find your location." Wu Yu. Is this a high IQ, and an invisible contempt for low IQ? Disappointing people. Take a deep breath. Wu Yu smiled very strongly, and showed 2 white front teeth. The young master is hiding from people. In a while, a nasty woman will come to disturb the young master. The young master is afraid of being upset, so he went back to the room in advance and asked me to wait outside. If she comes, he will drive her away. By the way, Miss Nan, the young master is being forced to marry now. You won't let the young master be snatched away by another woman, right? 2 days later, the Duke of Halls will force the young master to be engaged to his daughter, but they are trapped here now and cannot contact the outside world. Wu Yu was worried. What if the young master was really plotted against and got engaged to the daughter of the Duke of Halls? But now that Nan Yan is here, everything is fine. At worst, he can help Miss Nan snatch the marriage. Nan Yan had a cold look on her face. "Without my permission, I don't see who dares to snatch my man." Miss Nan is awesome. Wu Yu's heart was lifted, and he completely relaxed. Finally, he didn't have to worry about protecting the young master's innocence. The noise of the conversation outside had already alarmed Qin Lu inside. After hearing Nan Yan's familiar voice, he was about to open the door and come out. So, as soon as Nan Yan touched the door, before she pushed it, the door opened automatically. Before she could see the figure in front of her clearly, an arm reached out and pulled her into his arms, hugging her tightly. Nan Yan felt that her bones were aching from being squeezed by him, but she hugged his waist obediently, tiptoed slightly, and whispered in Qin Lu's ear, "Brother, we have only been apart for less than 2 days, can you not be so excited?" Qin Lu's heart beat very fast. Indeed, they were not separated for a long time, but he had never been so excited about her arrival as he was now. He was here, and she came to him. This was a kind of touching that made his heart palpitate. Suppressing the surging emotions in his heart, he gently touched Nan Yan's hair. "Yan Yan, why are you here?" Nan Yan snorted coquettishly, "If I don't come again, you will be taken away by other women." "No," Qin Lu hurriedly explained, "I am yours, no one can take me away." He didn't want to get engaged, and no one could force him. Not to mention the Duke, even if it was the Queen, he would not compromise. The person he wanted was nothing more than the little girl in front of him. Other women, in his eyes, were just red-faced skeletons, and they didn't want to affect his mind at all. "I know." Nan Yan didn't tease him anymore. They had known each other's feelings for a long time, so how could they doubt each other's feelings because of such a small matter? She smiled and asked seriously, "Brother, do you need me to rescue you?" She was afraid that Qin Lu would feel embarrassed. After all, he was detained here and was forced to get engaged to someone. If he said it out loud, it would still damage his reputation. Qin Lu heard the joke in her words and explained with a smile, "I stayed here just to wait for someone. If I didn't wait for him, I could come and go as I wanted." In his heart, he had already cursed Bozihu to the sky. If it wasn't for waiting for him, would he be considered by the little guy as having no ability to get away? This really hurt his male dignity. Nan Yan blinked, "Waiting for someone? Who?" "A person with a weird personality and very difficult to make friends with." There was a bit of gnashing of teeth in Qin Lu's voice. Nan Yan said "Oh," and inexplicably felt that the person Qin De Lao was talking about would not be her senior brother. The eldest brother has a strange temper. In addition to being a good brother in front of her and responding to her requests, in the eyes of others, he is definitely not an easy person to get along with. And his status is so high that these dukes take the initiative to rush to make friends with him. It is also normal to have a relationship with Qin Lao and establish some kind of cooperation, right? Nan Yan was silent for a while before speaking again. "What is the name of the person you are waiting for?" "Maybe, I know. Qin Lu, he never tells his name to the outside world, but his last name is Bo." "Okay. Confirmed. It's her eldest brother. Her eldest brother makes things difficult for her man. Tisk. If she mediates, the cooperation between the eldest brother and Qin Lu should be much smoother, right?" Nan Yan licked her lips and smiled again. "Brother, I may know the person you want to find." "Wait a little later, I'll introduce you to each other." "Who is he?" Qin Lu is not stupid. Looking at Nan Yan's expression, he has guessed some clues. Nan Yan smiled again. "The man you are talking about should be my senior brother." "Qin Lu." After a moment, a gloomy look appeared on Qin Lu's face. So, was he tricked by Nan Yan's senior brother invisibly? He. "Master, Miss Nan, Miss Euphemia is here again." Wu Yu was like he was facing a great enemy, and he reported to them in a low voice. Nan Yan pushed Qin Lu. "I came here with my senior brother this time. I don't want to cause him any trouble." "Brother, you can deal with that woman by yourself." Qin Lu didn't want Nan Yan to meet Euphemia, so he nodded and said, "You go into the room first." Nan Yan entered the room. Qin Lu helped her close the door, and within 3 seconds, Euphemia walked in on high heels. Euphemia was still looking around, as if looking for someone. Qin Lu rushed to her and said in a cold voice, "Get out of here." Euphemia was startled by his cold and stern tone at first, but then she reacted and was filled with shame and anger, completely forgetting that she actually came out to find Nan Yan. Previously, Mrs. Carl went to Euphemia according to Hall's request and asked her to entertain Nan Yan. The two young girls tended to have common topics. As a result, Euphemia came out to find Nan Yan, followed the path pointed by the guard, and came to this courtyard, and her nerves suddenly became tense. Of course, she was not worried about Nan Yan discovering Qin Lu locked inside. What she was worried about was that if Nan Yan didn't know anything and came in and offended Qin Lu again, he would be angry and kill her directly. After all, she herself had felt murderous intent from Qin Lu more than once. If she hadn't been the daughter of Duke Halls, he wouldn't have been able to escape if he killed her. She felt that she would have died in his hands. But if it were anyone else who disturbed him, she felt that he would definitely not be merciful. If something happens to the people brought by Mr. Bo in the first Duke's mansion, then Daddy's desire to have a good relationship with Mr. Bo will be completely over. Who would have known that as soon as she came in and before she asked, Qin Lu coldly scolded her, "Go away," and Euphemia was almost furious. "Qin Lu, you are just relying on the fact that I like you and can forgive you no matter how hateful you are to me, that you can hurt me so unscrupulously, right?" Euphemia's eyes were red, stubborn, and aggrieved, refusing to shed tears. For the first time, she liked a man so much and wanted to be with him. Why does he hate her so much? Qin Lu said coldly, "Wu Yu, beat him up and throw him out." "Wu Yu. Master, this is Duke Hall's favorite daughter. How dare he hit him? But I still dare to throw it out. If something happens, the young master and Miss Nan will support him. Miss Euphemia, my young master is resting at this time. You'd better come back." Wu Yu wanted to roll his eyes. Even though she knew how much the young master disliked her, she still tried to get in on her. Wasn't she in a bad temper? Euphemia stamped her feet angrily, and finally walked away angrily. Before leaving, he remembered the reason why she came here. He turned around and said with red eyes, "Mr. Qin, if you see a young woman coming in, don't hurt her. She is a guest in our house and has nothing to do with her. I understand, I didn't mean to offend you." Qin Lu said coldly, "Besides you, there is no other woman here." Euphemia thought so. This place is locked, and there are so many people watching in the dark. If Nan Yan really came here, he would have been discovered long ago. Since she is not here, she is not an eyesore to Qin Lu either. Anyway, after she gets engaged to him in more than a day, even if he doesn't give in, it won't help. Euphemia thought of this and looked at Qin Lu's face affectionately for a few more times before hurriedly walking out. She also wants to find Nan Yan. A visitor, she felt that Nan Yan was really too ignorant, wandering around in other people's homes. If it wasn't for Mr. Bo's sake, she wouldn't bother to look for her. After Euphemia left, Nan Yan came out of the room again. "Brother, it's time for me to leave. I'll come to pick you up on the engagement day." Qin Lu's face darkened. "You don't have to wait for the engagement day, I'll go with you." He stayed here before to wait for the time agreed with Bozihu. Now that it was confirmed that the person he was looking for was Nan Yan's senior brother, what was he still doing here? Besides, now that Nan Yan is here, it is even more impossible for him to be separated from her. "Nan Yan, okay, I'll deal with those snipers first." Otherwise, if they were targeted by those snipers, if they were not careful, they would all be beaten into pieces within such a short range. Careful. Nan Yan is like a ghost, wearing black casual clothes, hiding in the night, using the cover of darkness to transform into the god of death that harvests life. Qin Lu has been locked up here, but he doesn't know much about the distribution of snipers outside. That's why he didn't speak and wanted to deal with it himself. Nan Yan had already stepped on it before he came in, so it would be much easier to solve it. It took less than 3 minutes in total, and all the snipers Euphemia left here to guard Qin Lu fell down silently. Nan Yan returned to Qin Lu. Because of the dark clothes, the stained blood could not be seen, but the smell of blood could not be covered. She panted slightly, calmed her heartbeat, and smiled at Qin Lu. "Let's go, everything is solved." Wu Yu silently gave a thumbs up. "Miss Nan, you are so powerful and domineering." This was really the first time he felt the lethality of Nanyan. He had never had this opportunity to see it with his own eyes before. But he knew how many snipers were guarding them secretly. It only took a few minutes, but it was all solved. I have to say, no wonder she is a woman worthy of Master Qin. Nan Yan asked Qin Lu and Wu Yu to wait outside before regrouping. She came with Bozihu, and now it is inconvenient for Bozihu to make enemies with Duke Halls for her. So the disguise should be done. After Qin Lu and Wu Yu left, Nan Yan quietly left the courtyard and went to find Song Ye. Song Ye was waiting outside in fear. Seeing Nan Yan coming out, he couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. "Miss Nan, you are finally out. Just now a woman came. I guess she was looking for you. I was afraid that your whereabouts would be exposed, so I hid." "Miss Nan, she didn't find you, right?" Nan Yan said calmly. "No, let's go back first." Song Ye followed and couldn't help asking, "Miss Nan, is Mr. Qin here?" "Yeah." Nan Yan's tone was still light. But Song Ye was not calm. "Mr. Qin is really here. Miss Nan, how can we rescue Mr. Qin? Does your Mr. Qin need to wait for you to rescue him?" Nan Yan smiled. "Can't she save her man herself? Why should outsiders do it?" Song Ye didn't hear her hidden meaning, and said anxiously, "Miss Nan, Master Qin is about to be detained here to get engaged to the young lady of the Duke's mansion. Aren't you anxious?" Nan Yan frowned slightly, then sighed helplessly. "Don't worry, you will see him in a while." She saw that the people around Qin Lu were loyal, and they couldn't joke about this. Song Ye was stunned. Master Qin was not restricted in his freedom? This is unlikely. Otherwise, why can't they contact him? Nan Yan was annoyed by him, and her tone was a little impatient. "Do you think I just went in to meet him? I took care of a few snipers and helped him out." "Song Ye! Song Ye! Song Ye, Miss Nan, you will be my idol in the future. Miss Nan is so amazing." It's only been a few minutes, and she took action and solved it directly. Nan Yan smiled faintly. "It's just basic exercises. Let's go, quickly call the senior brother to leave and go back." Hashtag. Euphemia was so angry that she walked around outside again before she saw Nan Yan and Song Ye, who did not return along the same route. She gritted her teeth, suppressed her temper, and smiled as she walked towards Nan Yan. "Miss Nan, I finally found you. Where have you been?" Nan Yan had not had time to take a closer look at this woman who almost became her rival in love. Under the street light, she could see her clearly. She had a delicate and tender face, and she looked pretty good. But being pretty was not a reason for her to not be abused for competing with her for a man. Nan Yan looked at her with a smile on her lips, and said without showing it in her eyes, "I heard that you are going to get engaged in 2 days." "Yeah, that's right." Euphemia was a little confused, not knowing why Nan Yan was interested in her engagement, so she could only nod and invite her. "If Miss Nan is interested, you can come and attend then." Euphemia was still looking forward to it. If Nan Yan could be invited, could Bozihu also come along? Think about her engagement, and Bozihu could be there in person. Wouldn't that reveal a piece of news to the people who came to attend? "Mr. Bo, be good friends with the first Duke's mansion.